Chapter 5:17. Xueqi had no way of knowing the situation in the Center God province, so he could not help but feel worried. As such, he traveled incredibly quickly. The next sacred ground was known as the night-gazing forest, which was slightly stronger than the Dark Moon Valley. However, by the time the three of them arrived at the night-gazing forest, there was already no trace of anyone in the forest. All the disciples had already evacuated. Wang Ho spat. "You actually fled? Are you even fit to be a Holy Land? If the Holy Land were to relocate, its luck would definitely plummet." Xueqi scanned the place with his divine sense and found that there was not a single treasure left in the night-gazing forest. How cunning! The 7 Holy Lands have probably joined forces. Her tone was calm as if she was an outsider. She was indeed an outsider. If it wasn't for the fact that her master had told her that her death tribulation was coming, she wouldn't have come to the Abyss Pearl mainland. Xueqi asked, "Who is the most powerful in the sanctums?" "Only the strongest Holy Land could gather the other Holy Lands." Feng Yuxiu muttered, "It should be the one God whole. They are the first sacred ground in the history of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Their ancestor surpassed universe heaven and ventured into the void. If you destroy one godly hall, there will be trouble in the future." Xueqi snorted in disdain. When he wanted to destroy the Abyss Pearl mainland, it meant that there would be endless trouble. Every time he thought of this, he felt nothing towards the Heavenly Saint. If the Heavenly Saint took action himself, how could the living dare to hold a grudge? Yet, he had to choose 3 children of destiny to compete. Wasn't this just creating conflict? However, by doing so, he was also giving everyone a chance of survival. "Take us to one shrine," Xueqi continued. Feng Yuxiu nodded and flew in another direction. Xueqi and Marquis followed closely behind. Along the way, Wang Ho kept asking Feng Yuxiu questions. They were all asking about the seniors of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Once the Abyss Pearl mainland was destroyed, many experts would descend upon the Center God province to seek revenge. Feng Yuxiu was annoyed by the questions. She snorted coldly and said, "After the war between the 2 worlds ends, the Heavenly Saint will erase the memories of the victors. As for the losers, anyone who can escape from this situation will be enlightened. How can they bear grudges like mortals?" It wasn't the first time that the Abyss Pearl mainland had experienced a war between 2 worlds. It was just that the living beings couldn't remember it. The night-gazing forest was very far away from the one godly hall. It was equivalent to passing through the Abyss Pearl mainland. On the way, Xueqi welcomed his birthday. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 238 years old. Gotcha started. Ding! Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Armageddon, Crimson Sun Sword, Disaster Release, Cultivation Absorbing Demon Seal. 2 divine swords. There was also a disaster-releasing divine sword. Xueqi rejoiced in his heart. Next, information about the 2 legendary swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name: Crimson Sun Sword Grade, Armageddon. Description: a divine sword formed by the Crimson Sun. It can burn the world. Sword name: Cultivation Absorbing Demon Sealer Level. Disaster Relief. Description: a sword that specifically absorbs the cultivation of the demon race and seals off demonic qi. The more demonic qi it absorbs, the stronger the sword qi will be. One must be at least at Universe Heaven Realm Level 1 to use it. Xueqi's eyes brightened. Cultivation Absorbing Demonic Sealer counters demons? It could also absorb demonic energy and become stronger and stronger. Not bad at all. Xueqi liked swords that had the potential to grow, especially swords that could grow in battle. He didn't take it out to check. He had the 9 Moon Execution Sword in his hands, so he didn't need the Cultivation Absorbing Demonic Seal for the time being. Moreover, the Cultivator Absorbing Demon Sealer was targeted at the Devil race. The demonic cultivators of the Abyss Pearl mainland couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. He would use it against the demons in the future. Because Xian Xianghua was in the demon realm, he believed that one day, he would be able to face the enemies of the demon race. After obtaining another disaster-releasing divine sword, Xueqi felt incredibly happy, and even Feng Yuxiu became much more pleasing to the eye. One God Palace was located at the summit of the Abyss Pearl mainland's tallest mountain. Right now, the entire mountain was filled with people. There were humans, demons, dragons, and other races. All of them had taken human form and formed an army. There was also a massive army around the mountain. All of the creatures that could come here had the strength to take human form. The weak were not qualified to participate in battle, and they only needed to hide. The surrounding 10,000 kilometers were filled with an austere aura. When is Xueqi coming? Probably soon. He's been fighting non-stop. Could it be that his magic energy is limitless? How can he fight so frequently? This time, it's going to be a battle to the death. It's said that Xueqi has the title of Sword Emperor in the Center God Province and is acknowledged by heavenly law. How do you know? If he's the Sword Emperor acknowledged by heavenly law, no wonder he's so powerful. All the creatures and factions were discussing Xueqi. Previously, they might have been enemies, but now they would be fighting side by side. No hatred could compare to the survival of the Abyss Pearl mainland. In one god palace, hundreds of universe heaven cultivators gathered here. The current palace lord, Li Yishan, sat on the highest seat. Every palace lord of one god palace would receive the title of Yishan. Li Yishan's cultivation was at universe heaven level 17. No one in the palace could compare to him. He glanced at everyone and said, "Our Abyss Pearl mainland is the divine transformation of the divine moon. Xueqi has also received the divine moon's inheritance, so we are fighting against the Abyss Pearl mainland. I already have a countermeasure against the divine moon, which is our one god palace's 10,000 divine will formation." 10,000 divine will formation. Everyone's expressions changed, and their expressions changed. A short man slammed the table and stood up. He pointed at Li Yishan and asked, "Do you want to become the center of the 10,000 divine will formation and fight to the death with Xueqi?" The others also had a strange expression. This formation would absorb the essence chi of those who entered and even hurt their foundations. Only one person could benefit from it. Li Yishan looked calm. A domineering aura exploded from him. "Among everyone here, other than me, who else can convince you? Who else can you trust? Remember, this is not a martial arts competition, nor is it a battle between two sects. If we lose this battle, we will all die. Not only us but also all living beings in the world." His voice was powerful and overpowered the entire palace. Everyone fell into silence. At the same time, Xueqi and the other two were still on their way. Feng Yuxiu told Xueqi and Wang Ho about the 10,000 divine will formation, which shocked them. Such a formation existed in the world? However, if this formation was activated, all the disciples would be injured. It could not be used unless it was absolutely necessary. But to one god palace, this was the last resort. Wang Ho looked at Xueqi and asked, "Which means to say, you will fight against the combined power of all living beings in the world. Are you afraid?" Xueqi glanced at him and said condescendingly, "I'm afraid." Wang Ho curled his lip. This brat was getting more and more arrogant. He was looking forward to it. If this wave ended, the Center God Province would win. As long as it ended, he would no longer have to hide and could peacefully continue to comprehend the Great Tao. "How far are we from one God Palace?" Wang Ho asked Feng Yuxiu, his tone filled with anticipation. Feng Yuxiu looked at Xueqi and said, "We're almost there. The 10,000 divine will formation has already been activated. Li Yishan's aura is even more powerful than when you were at Dark Moon Valley." Chapter 5:18. "Really?" Marquis asked nervously. Zhao Gao's hadn't even descended, but Li Yishan had already erupted? Feng Yuxiu answered, "At least in terms of aura." She looked at Xueqi and really wanted to know what this brat was thinking. Xueqi smiled and asked, "Much more powerful than me?" The divine will of 10,000 formations seemed to be pretty good. He was looking for a chance to get it. Although it's not like the difference between heaven and earth at this level, this small difference can affect the outcome of the battle. Moreover, Li Yishan has lived longer than you, so his combat experience and divine powers are richer than yours. Feng Yuxiu said seriously. She wasn't biased. This was how she felt. Wang Ho frowned at that. Xueqi shook his head and said, "You think that was my peak before?" With that, he sped up and rushed forward. The 9-moon execution sword appeared in his hands. He immediately entered the mystic moon state, and his body shone with white light. Like a meteor, he shot towards one godly hall. At this moment, near the mountain where the one godly hall was located, All living beings had already made their preparations for battle. All living beings within 10,000 miles sat cross-legged on the ground. Their essence, energy, and soul turned into white smoke that rose into the sky and gathered on one person. That was Li Yishan. Li Yishan floated in the air, enjoying the essence, qi, and spirit of billions of living beings. His aura rose steadily. He looked at his hands with a fascinated look on his face. With this kind of strength, even if he faces Zhao Gao's, he should still be able to obtain victory. Li Yishan muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The array of divine will of 10,000 qi was still in operation, and he was also steadily getting stronger. He could already sense Zhou Xuanji's aura. He was very strong. However, he was no match for the current him. Boom! Zhou Xuanji flew over from the horizon, giving off a majestic aura. Seeing this, all living beings shuddered. They looked up at Zhou Xuanji. The white light flashed, and they could not see Zhou Xuanji's face at all. However, in such a situation, they felt even more respect towards Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji stopped 1,000 meters away from Li Yishan. Li Yishan stared at Zhou Xuanji and said, "You're Zhou Xuanji? I didn't expect you to be able to perfectly withstand the power of the mystic moon. You are indeed worthy of the title of Sword Emperor." He did not have much hatred for Zhou Xuanji. In the War of the Two Realms, everyone was forced to do so. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "How about giving me the spell formation? I guarantee that your one divine hall's disciples will die painlessly." Li Yishan narrowed his eyes when he heard that. He laughed coldly and said, "You really know how to joke." He immediately prepared for battle. Zhou Xuanji condensed the battle flame soul. Within the white light, strands of green flames coiled around it, and its aura grew explosively. Li Yishan's expression slightly changed. He had never thought that Zhou Xuanji could become stronger. He shouted loudly, "All beings of the Abyss Pearl! Today was a battle of life and death for all living beings in the world. Today, if we win, the world will win. If we lose, the world will lose." His voice resounded beneath the clouds, surging with passion, sonorous, and forceful. Even Zhou Xuanji was somewhat influenced by him, let alone the people below. This guy really knows how to stir up people's hearts. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself but did not care. Kill! Billions of creatures roared in unison, shouting themselves hoarse. They looked at Zhou Xuanji with bloodshot eyes, wanting to tear him to pieces. In the distance, Marquis was extremely nervous. He asked Feng Yuxiu, "What are his chances of winning?" Feng Yuxiu frowned and said, "Even though he used a divine ability to increase his cultivation, his chances of winning are still not high. As for the specifics," as she spoke, Zhou Xuanji suddenly moved. He held the 9-moon execution sword and leapt up, breaking through the sea of clouds and disappearing. Li Yishan looked up and could sense Zhou Xuanji's aura. He took out a 5-edged whip and prepared to fight. Rumble! A massive explosion sounded out, shaking the heavens and earth and causing all living beings on the ground and mountains to feel incredibly uneasy. Li Yishan slightly frowned. He did not dodge because he could not dodge. Once he dodged, the creatures below would suffer a calamity. He gathered his magic energy and whipped out. This whip gave off a brilliant light, as if it was going to tear the sky apart. At that moment, Zhou Xuanji broke through the clouds and dove down. He gripped his sword with his right hand and pointed it downwards. The air around him exploded, shaking the space. It was as if a ray of divine light descended from the sky. World-suppressing. This was a divine ability that Zhou Xuanji had obtained when he broke through to Universe Heaven, but he had not used it yet. He poured all of his divine moon energy into the 9-moon execution sword, and his aura reached an unprecedented peak. He was incredibly fast. Unstoppable. He crushed the 5-edged whip's energy directly and charged toward Li Yishan. Li Yishan opened his eyes wide and instinctively swung his palm. The surging magic energy turned into a massive palm that was as big as a mountain and slammed toward Zhou Xuanji. Boom! The massive palm shattered, and white light burst out from Zhou Xuanji's body. The sword landed on Li Yishan's body and pressed him down to the ground. All beings who were forming the 10,000 divine will formation were dumbfounded. Before they could react, Zhou Xuanji pressed Li Yishan down to the ground. What followed was an earth-shattering sound. The white sword qi swept in all directions, and the ground rumbled. Countless living beings were turned into dust, and mountains crumbled. The scene was incredibly majestic. Marquis opened his mouth wide and could not believe his eyes. Feng Yuxiu was also stunned. Looking over, the entire ground was destroyed by Zhou Xuanji's sword Qi. One sword suppressing the world, destroying all living beings. Feng Yuxiu raised her right hand and used magic energy to create a barrier of light, protecting Marquis. The sword Qi flashed past their bodies, and they could not see anything. They were surrounded by sword Qi. Feng Yuxiu's expression slightly changed and she lightly gritted her teeth. A look of shock appeared on her beautiful face as she muttered, "What divine ability is this? How can it be so powerful?" Marquis was so scared that he almost peed his pants. His body trembled as he said, "Didn't you say that his chances of victory were not high?" Feng Yuxiu's expression was complicated as she said gloomily, "Li Yishan is already dead." She had miscalculated. Zhou Xuanji was too powerful. If it was her, facing that sword strike, she would have died without a doubt. If it wasn't for the fact that they were quite far away, she would not have been able to block that sword Qi, which was as boundless as heavenly might. Marquis was delighted. Li Yishan had fallen. Looking at the might of that sword strike, all living beings would most likely die. In other words, they were only a step away from victory in the war between two worlds. In the next second, his expression became one of shock. This was because he saw the barrier of magic energy that Feng Yuxiu had created melting. Not good. He's too powerful. I can't hold on much longer. Feng Yuxiu gritted her teeth, her eyes filled with fear. Wang Ho almost cursed out furiously. "Weren't you very arrogant before? You even said that Zhou Xuanji was not powerful enough, and now you can't do it?" Feng Yuxiu raised her left hand and a jade pendant that looked like a lion's face appeared. In the next second, she and Wang Ho disappeared. After an unknown period of time, the sword Qi dissipated, and the entire world was in a turbid state. Countless dust and dirt filled the air, as if chaos had just begun. A ray of white light could be vaguely seen on the ground. It was Zhou Xuanji. He slowly got up, holding the 9-moon execution sword in his hand. He scanned the surroundings, and all he saw was desolate, without a trace of life. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 519. I'm too powerful, Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He walked to the top of the ruins and sat down cross-legged. With world suppressing, the factions led by One God Hall were all annihilated. Everything calmed down. He did not look for marquises immediately but chose to break through. When he used world suppressing, he also used world internalization to absorb countless magic energy. If he did not suppress it in time, his body would not be able to endure it. Boom! The heavenly tribulation came as scheduled. Spiritual Qi seeped out from the ground and entered his body. He took out the ancient god sword and stabbed it into the ground to defend himself. After that, the heavenly tribulation dispersed. He began to break through. In less than half an hour, he broke through to Universe Heaven Level 7. Because the magic energy in his body was too violent, his heavenly law immortal constitution almost exploded. Fortunately, the power of the divine moon could barely suppress it, and he broke through safely. After breaking through, his body began to transform, and the discomfort subsided. World suppressing had destroyed too many living beings. Their magic energy gathered together was too violent. Zhou Xuanji was shocked. It seemed that he had to be careful when using world internalization in the future. If he killed himself, it would not be fun. Half a day later, he broke through to Universe Heaven Level 8, and the growth of his cultivation began to slow down. Another 2 hours passed, and he completely absorbed the magic energy in his body. Universe Heaven Level 8. How wonderful! Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He looked up and saw thunderclouds billowing, as though something was about to descend. Boom! A beam of light pierced through the clouds and shone on Zhou Xuanji. It was heavenly law fate. In this battle, Zhou Xuanji had wiped out the 8 sanctums of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Horrifying fate gathered on his body, and the ground undulated like waves. Take out Demon God Tianwu. I will teach you a technique to refine Demon God Tianwu into your clone. Dao Lord Xuantian's voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind. Next, a wave of memories flowed into the depths of his mind. The ancient god's sword beside him trembled violently. Evidently, the souls were extremely excited. Soon, Zhou Xuanji learned the technique to refine a clone from Dao Lord Shintian. It was called the soul division technique. He could imbue his will into the clone. From now on, whatever he wanted the clone to do, the clone would do instinctively. He immediately took out Demon God Tianwu's corpse. He leaped onto Demon God Tianwu's chest, and the providence of the heavenly Tao shone on Demon God Tianwu's body. He sat down cross-legged and used the soul division technique. Demon God Tianwu was not recognized by the heavenly Tao. Back then, when the heavenly saint killed him, he borrowed the power of the heavenly Tao. His corpse still has the heavenly Tao seal, and now, you can use the heavenly Tao's luck to erase the heavenly Tao seal. From today onwards, Demon God Tianwu can be revived. Tao Lord Shintian said excitedly as if he had obtained Demon God Tianwu. The other souls spoke one after another, all of them very excited. Legend has it that the 10 great demon gods were the earliest demons, immortal and indestructible. Just how strong are they? Let's put it this way. With this clone, at least in the Center God province, no one can harm him. Not only that, Demon God Tianwu will continue to recover his battle strength. As long as he has enough time, he will return to his peak state sooner or later. How strong was Demon God Tianwu at his strongest? Invincible below heavenly saints. Hearing their discussions, Zhou Xuanji felt quite expectant. Soon, he split off a trace of his soul and had it enter Demon God Tianwu's body. The process of splitting his soul was very painful, and he felt as if his head was going to explode. Demon God Tianwu was now ownerless, and the heavenly law seal within his body had disappeared, allowing Zhou Xuanji's soul to easily take over this body. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to take over Demon God Tianwu's body. As soon as their soul got close to the heavenly law seal, they would suffer a backlash. Zhou Xuanji had already obtained most of the Abyss Pearl Mainland's fate, and ordinary people could not compare to him. Adding on the soul division technique, it was not difficult at all. Sovereign Xian asked out of curiosity, Tao Lord Shintian, this clone creation technique is not simple. Where did you obtain it? Before, Tao Lord Shintian had been very curious about him, but he had ignored him. Now, the tables had turned. Tao Lord Shintian did not reply to him, making him feel quite anxious. The other souls also asked curiously. Tao Lord Shintian said, outside the Great Thousand World, there is an even more vast void. Even though few people go there, there are many serendipity hidden there. I obtained it from a broken cave abode. This clone creation technique is definitely top-notch. Without the soul division technique, no matter how much heavenly law fate you have, you will not be able to remove the heavenly law seal within his body. His tone was filled with arrogance. You guys ignored me before, but what about now? A while later, Zhou Xuanji's trace of soul completely fused with Demon God Tianwu's body. In that instant, Zhou Xuanji felt that he had some sort of connection with Demon God Tianwu. With a thought, Demon God Tianwu slowly stood up. With the heavenly law fate, his shriveled body began to fill up. A layer of horny armor covered his body, and the aura of a demon god emanated, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Zhou Xuanji, who was standing on his head, was shocked in his heart. Such power! He could sense that Demon God Tianwu's body contained a power that was even more powerful than his. Pure power. No magic energy. It was as though he could destroy the entire Abyss Pearl mainland with a single punch. He smiled before putting Demon God Tianwu into the Tianxia map. This clone would be his trump card, and he could not expose it easily. He sat on the ground and regulated his aura. Half an hour later, the pillar of light formed from the heavenly law fate dissipated. His cultivation did not break through, but his body and Emperor's might were greatly strengthened. This feeling of quickly becoming stronger felt so good. At that moment, Feng Yuxiu and Marquis flew over from the horizon. The two of them locked onto his aura and quickly landed in front of him. Marquis said excitedly, "Stinking brat, you're so powerful. You really won, and you only used one sword strike." He swore that he would never forget that sword strike for the rest of his life. Feng Yuxiu looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated gaze. This fellow's talent was so terrifying. In all her life, no one had such incredible talent. Even Zhao Gao's could not compare to him. Zhou Xuanji smiled calmly and said, "Victory is in sight, we can't relax. Let's continue." Marquis nodded, and the three of them continued on their journey. News of the 7 sanctums being destroyed by Xueqi spread. This time, the Abyss Pearl mainland felt despair. Many creatures felt that their deaths were near, and they started to go crazy, venting their emotions without restraint. The Abyss Pearl mainland was about to become hell on earth. The unluckiest were those who had ascended. Right after ascending, they found out that the Abyss Pearl mainland was going to be destroyed by the heavenly law. They felt so regretful that their intestines turned green. Xueqi and the others flew on clouds, and Feng Yuxiu could not help but ask out of curiosity, "What was that sword strike of yours?" Chapter 5:20. It's a sword technique I created, world suppressing. One sword suppressing the world. Isn't it mighty? Xueqi harumphed. After all, only he knew the sword techniques created by the supreme legendary sword system, so it was not wrong to say that it was a sword technique he created. Hearing this, Feng Yuxiu muttered, "World suppressing. World suppressing." That sword strike from before had indeed been incredibly domineering. As the sword descended, everything on the ground had been turned into barren land. Even someone as powerful as Li Yishan had been instantly killed, unable to resist at all. She sighed and said, "You already have the strength to fight against Zhao Gao's." Xueqi glanced at her and said, "Only? I can't defeat him 100%? Just as Feng Yuxiu was about to reply, she thought about it. This boy's talent was too powerful, and perhaps he had trump cards. As such, she fell silent. Seeing that she did not reply, Xueqi felt bored and ignored her. After the 3 god dynasties and 8 sanctums were destroyed, Xueqi and the others began to wander aimlessly. Now that the Abyss Pearl mainland was in a state of panic, those famous experts were most likely hiding and would not wait for him to kill his way in. If he could defeat Zhao Gao's, the war between 2 worlds would most likely end. Zhao Gao's was ranked first on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking, and his strength surpassed the Abyss Pearl mainland. However, Xueqi did not. There were still things in the Abyss Pearl mainland that he could not let go of, so he would often come back. According to Feng Yuxiu, with Zhao Gao's personality, after seeing the Abyss Pearl mainland, he would definitely come to find him. "You understand Zhao Gao so well. What's your relationship?" Xueqi asked mockingly. "Don't tell me he's your little lover. If I kill him, will you fight me to the death?" Feng Yuxiu's gaze was cold as she said, "There's a great difference in seniority between us. I've pursued the great Tao my entire life and will not be trapped by love. I hope you can be more respectful." Marquis could not help but laugh, causing Feng Yuxiu to glare at him. The relationship between the 3 of them had become much better. Feng Yuxiu would tell them about the Great Thousand Worlds and the Void so that they would be more prepared when they left the Center God Province. There were exactly 9 known boundless worlds. Legend had it that there were even more boundless worlds a long time ago, but the Heavenly Saint destroyed those boundless worlds in order to better manage them. It's best that you don't enter the Void carelessly in the future. Feng Yuxiu said profoundly, "Legend has it that a long time ago, a Heavenly Saint disappeared into the depths of the Void. Later, a new Heavenly Saint took his place. Less than half of the experts who went to the Void returned alive." So terrifying? Xueqi and Marquis looked at each other. They had thought that the Heavenly Saints were omnipotent. They had not expected that there would be something that could threaten them. "I heard that the war between the 2 worlds was to prevent the Great Thousand Worlds from expanding and entering the Void. That was why the Heavenly Saints worked together with the Heavenly Tao to do this." Feng Yuxiu continued to speak, which made Xueqi raise his brow. Does this woman not know that the gods are 3 feet above her head? Was he not afraid of the Heavenly Saint finding out? Feng Yuxiu saw through his gaze and answered, "The Heavenly Saint of the Zhengqian Great Thousand is my teacher." Xueqi and Wang Ho's expressions were strange. This woman had such a powerful background? It was no wonder that he spoke so freely. Xueqi felt uneasy in his heart. If he attacked Feng Yuxiu, would the Heavenly Saint take revenge on him? In the investiture of the gods, the saints had fought over their disciples. After Feng Yuxiu revealed her identity, Xueqi and Wang Ho did not dare to be rude to her anymore. Feng Yuxiu was not arrogant either. No matter what they asked, she answered honestly. In the vast starry sky, Sage Dao Jing and an old man were playing chess. They were levitating, and the chessboard before them was very strange. It looked like a Tai Chi diagram, but there were other complicated patterns on it. Each of them had 50 chess pieces. One side was black, and the other side was white. The old man who was playing chess with Sage Daojing was Feng Yuxiu's teacher. He was muscular and wore a red robe. His hair was tied up with a golden thread. "Hongsher, seems like you are going to lose this game," Sage Daojing said with a smile. Just when he spoke, a few of his opponent's chess pieces fell. Old ancestor Hongsher snorted. "So be it. You have lost to me so many times. So what if I give you a handicap this time?" He changed the topic and said, "This kid is not simple. How did you nurture him?" Below the heavenly saint, everyone was in their eyes. "It's strange. I can't see through this kid." Sage Daojing shook his head and smiled. He paused and guessed. He might have obtained a fortuitous encounter from the void. Hearing this, old ancestor Hongsher became even more interested. He said, "Give him to me, and you can choose any one of my subordinates." Sage Daojing asked teasingly, "If I want Si Mengyan, will you be willing?" "Yes." "Really? Would there be any lies between us?" "Then forget it. I won't trade." "You." Old ancestor Hongsher was angered by Sage Daojing. He raised his hand and attacked Sage Daojing, who dodged backwards. The two of them were like old children who could not grow up. They were filled with fun. Under the blue sky, the mountains rose and fell. Gu Tianxia sat on a stone chair on the mountain. The stone chair was covered with a thick beast hide. He rested his chin on his right hand and rested. The entire mountain was filled with monsters. At the foot of the mountain, there was a bare tree with two people tied to it. The two of them were dirty and had messy hair. They were in a sorry state. They stood shoulder to shoulder and glared at Gu Tianxia. They were the Abyss Pearl Mainland's children of destiny. When they had first descended to the Center God Province, they had been incredibly majestic. However, they had encountered Gu Tianxia and their magic energy had been sucked dry. Now they were two cripples. Despicable. If this goes on, we'll become the sinners of the Abyss Pearl Mainland, a tall man said as he gritted his teeth. If news of this humiliation reached the Abyss Pearl Mainland, would they still have the face to live? The person beside him sighed and said, "What do we do? We're already prisoners. Even though we're in a sorry state, the Center God Province's people won't be able to do anything in the Abyss Pearl Mainland. The difference in strength between the two worlds is still quite great. It's said that the three people sent over have the highest cultivation at Universe Heaven Level 5. Even if their talent is extraordinary, there's still Zhao Gao's." Hearing about Zhao Gao's, the tall man's eyes lit up, and his dispirited look disappeared. As long as the Center God Province's three geniuses died, they could return. However, they did not know that the Abyss Pearl Mainland was about to perish. Elsewhere, Xueqi and the others landed on a grassy plain. They did not continue onwards and silently waited for Zhao Gao's to descend. Where did Great Emperor Wuwang run off to? Don't tell me he really died? Marquis muttered as he sat on the ground. He felt like he was Great Emperor Wuwang's mortal enemy, and he did not want that fellow to die so quickly. Xueqi did not reply and instead started to comprehend his way of the sword. Fighting in the Divine Moon state allowed him to comprehend many things. The power of the Divine Moon was peerlessly domineering. When using world-suppressing and primordial chaos sword Shadow, advancing courageously was an incredibly wonderful feeling. Feng Yuxiu stood not too far away and looked at the sky, lost in thought. No one knew what she was thinking. Chapter 521. With Feng Yuxiu by his side, Xueqi could not take out demon god Tianwu to study, and he did not cultivate either. The immortal energy stored in the Tianxia map was already massive. After all, he had absorbed the magic energy of hundreds of millions of creatures in the Abyss Pearl Mainland. Wang Ho was comprehending as well. He had learned a lot from his experiences over the years, and he needed to calm his heart and feel them well. Days passed by. The Abyss Pearl Mainland was also becoming more and more chaotic. The 3 divine dynasties and the 8 sacred lands were no longer around, and the people of the Abyss Pearl Mainland let go of their inner desires. In the face of despair, they went their own ways and acted without restraint. Emperor Wuwang had yet to show himself. Perhaps he really was dead. If he was still alive, after hearing about the situation in the world, he would most likely come to find Xueqi and Yi Sisi immediately. Of course, there was another possibility. He must have encountered a great opportunity. 3 months passed quickly. Xueqi could not sit still anymore. Rather than doing nothing, it was better to go to the Abyss Pearl mainland and search for treasures. He told Wang Ho his idea, and the two of them hit it off immediately. Feng Yuxiu led the way. For her own death tribulation, Feng Yuxiu was willing to lead the way. She did not know why, but when she was beside Xueqi, she felt very peaceful. This feeling was very strange, and it made her even more curious about Xueqi. Are there any powerful treasures in the Abyss Pearl mainland? It would be best if they are heavenly treasures that can increase one's cultivation. Xueqi asked, not for himself. He wanted to collect more and bring them back to plant in order to support Emperor Sword Court and Divine Cliff. Feng Yuxiu muttered, I'll bring you to the south. There's an ice region in the south. The natural treasures that can survive for a very long time because there are few people there. Wang Ho asked curiously, how many continents like the Abyss Pearl mainland are there in the Zhengqian Great Thousand? When they first arrived, they saw many continents that looked like small islands. They were all about the same size, and there were no obvious continents. At least a few hundred. I don't know exactly how many there are. I've been cultivating with Master for a long time, and I haven't traveled the entire Righteous Gone Great Thousand. Feng Yuxiu said with a deep voice. Xueqi and Marquis looked at each other and saw the sorrow in each other's eyes. A heavenly saint's disciple was indeed impressive. The two of them immediately flew towards the south. Outside the Zhengguan Great Thousand, a figure sped through the universe, faster than a meteor. His entire body glowed with a faint white light. His expression was grave and stern, and his silver hair danced wildly in the wind. He wore a blue and white robe, and a golden folding fan was stuck to his back. He was Zhao Gao's. Recently, his mind had been restless, and he was unable to cultivate in peace. So, he could only return to the Abyss Pearl mainland to take a look. His gaze was calm as he stared straight ahead without shifting his gaze. Xiao! A beam of golden light shot towards him from the front, startling him into tilting his head and dodging it easily. A gigantic figure appeared in front of them. This person's entire body shone with golden light. He was tens of thousands of feet tall and had 12 wings on his back. His aura was extremely powerful. Zhao Gaos also stopped and asked in a deep voice, Who are you and why are you stopping me? The golden figure replied, Zhao Gaos, I advise you not to go back. The Abyss Pearl mainland has been chosen to participate in the war between two realms, and it is currently on the verge of destruction. Even if you go back now, it will be useless. Why take such a risk? The war between the two worlds. Zhao Gao's expression changed dramatically. He said in a low voice, Are you trying to provoke me? He did not know the other party at all, and the other party was definitely not trying to dissuade him out of goodwill. Ha ha ha. Zhao Gaos, you are highly regarded by old ancestor Hongshe. If you die at the hands of the Center God Province's Sword Emperor, wouldn't that bring shame to old ancestor Hongshe? The golden figure loudly laughed. Just as he spoke, Zhao Gaos pierced through his body and sped towards the Zhengguan Great Thousand. Zhao Gaos quickly disappeared into the depths of the universe. The golden figure slowly turned and said in a low voice, Zhao Gaos, if you can kill that Sword Emperor, you will not live for long. This is your destiny. Within a world of ice and snow, Xueqi slowly walked forwards, holding the 9-moon execution sword. He continuously picked up white lotus-like flowers and pulled them up by the roots before putting them into the supreme storage. Marquis and Feng Yuxiu stood on a hill, looking up at the sky. From here, they could see the starry sky. There were countless stars above the thin clouds and mist, looking as beautiful as a painting. He's coming. I can already sense his aura. Feng Yuxiu suddenly frowned as she muttered. Marquis asked, How powerful is his aura? The crucial battle had arrived. As long as they could kill Zhao Gaos, the war between two realms would come to an end. Feng Yuxiu replied, Very powerful. He has already surpassed Universe Heaven, and is only a step away from the next level. Hearing this, Marquis tightly frowned. Now that things had come to this, he could only choose to believe in Xueqi. He turned and saw that Xueqi was still focused on collecting natural treasures, as if he did not know that Zhao Gaos was coming. Unknowingly, he could not see through Xueqi at all. This feeling was as if he was looking up at a senior. An hour later. All beings in the Abyss Pearl mainland, do not panic. I, Zhao Gaos, will personally kill the Center God Province's Sword Emperor Xueqi. All of you wait and do not cause any trouble. Zhao Gaos' voice sounded out, his tone cold and filled with soul-freezing killing intent. At that moment, he was standing on a ruined city. He floated in the air and looked down. Below was a wasteland with piles of rubble. It was difficult to imagine that this had once been a city. Looking out, the nearby mountains and forests were just as desolate. He gripped his fists and gritted his teeth as he said, "Xueqi, I will definitely tear you to pieces." After saying this, he turned into a ray of light and shot south. Xueqi, who was picking up flowers, suddenly stopped. Legendary swords appeared around him, and his black clothes slightly fluttered. The 9-sun spirit source crown on his head gave off a cold light, and his gaze became incredibly cold. The cultivator-absorbing demon sealer appeared in his left hand. This disaster-releasing legendary sword was blood red, and the hilt looked like a demon's face, looking incredibly savage and terrifying. Boom! His body gave off a dazzling white light, and his aura exploded out, causing the ice and snow beneath his feet to crack. Marquis was given a big fright and asked anxiously, "Is he coming?" Feng Yuxiu lightly nodded before flying up and moving away from Xueqi. Marquis hurriedly followed after her. This was a battle between gods, and he did not dare to participate in case he was accidentally injured. Soon, he sensed a peerlessly terrifying murderous aura sweeping over from the horizon. He turned his head to look. Swish, Zhao Gaos flashed past him and Feng Yuxiu, rushing towards Xueqi incredibly quickly. Marquis' eyes widened, and all of his hairs stood on end. In that instant, he had sensed the aura of death. Zhao Gaos took out the golden folding fan on his back and slashed towards Xueqi. Xueqi raised his sword with one hand to block, and with a clang, the ice beneath his feet shattered, turning into a terrifying abyss. Zhao Gaos' expression was cold, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Through the white light, he could see Xueqi's gaze. It was just as cold. This was the first time the two of them had met. They did not say anything and directly started fighting. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 522. Clang, clang, clang. Xueqi and Zhao Gaos fell into an intense battle. The legendary sword and golden fan continuously clashed, causing sparks to fly. The two of them soared into the sky and dove into the ground, fighting intensely. The two of them separated once more. Zhao Gaos gripped his fan with one hand and quickly waved it. Countless fiery winds charged toward Xueqi from all directions like an inescapable net. Xueqi charged toward him and activated the Tri-Source Vein-Severing Sword at the same time. His sword chi was like a violent storm, dispersing the fiery wind. Zhao Gaos' leg lashed out. This leg was covered in lightning, and its aura was powerful, as if it could destroy the heavens. Xueqi directly unleashed the ancestral dragon sword, turning into a 5-clawed golden dragon and rushing towards Zhao Gaos. The 100,000-foot-long 5-clawed golden dragon crashed down, forcing Zhao Gaos to the ground. He exerted strength with his legs and did not lie down. The 5-clawed golden dragon pressed down on him as it charged forward at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had traversed hundreds of miles, smashing through numerous icebergs. Zhao Gaos was expressionless, and a violet soul condensed behind him. The violet soul punched out, and a terrifying power instantly caused the 5-clawed golden dragon to explode. Xueqi revealed his original body and rushed into the clouds to unleash world-suppressing. Zhao Gaos' legs shot into the air as he quickly caught up to him. Roar! A world-shaking roar sounded out as Zhao Gaos opened his mouth and an evil spirit charged out. It had a green face and fangs, and it quickly grew in size as it smashed towards Xueqi like a mountain. 9 sword souls condensed behind Xueqi, and they continuously shot out, destroying the evil ghosts and forcing Zhao Gaos down. This guy's magic power is so strong. Xueqi inwardly felt quite startled. Only in the divine moon state could his power and speed just barely match up to Zhao Gaos. Just how high was this guy's cultivation? Unbeknownst to them, Zhao Gaos was also shocked. Xueqi's body was filled with an unfamiliar power, but he could tell that Xueqi was only at Universe Heaven level 8. How could a Universe Heaven stage 8 cultivator withstand such a powerful divine power? Zhou Xuanji unleashed the primordial chaos sword shadow, and 1 billion sword images appeared above his head, descending towards Zhao Gao's like a torrential rain. The momentum was vast, as if the heavens were collapsing. Zhao Gao suddenly took out a sword and slashed at the sky. The purple sword qi was like a continuous mountain range, destroying millions of sword shadows. The other swords continued to descend, attacking Zhao Gao's. Zhao Gao's was quickly engulfed by the sword images. Zhou Xuanji followed up into the clouds. "He's here," Wang Ho said excitedly. The sword that could destroy heaven and earth had finally appeared. Feng Yuxiu also looked closely at Zhou Xuanji, wanting to see through this sword strike. Rumble. A strong light shone and scattered all the sword shadows. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji descended from the sky, and with the 9-moon execution sword, he descended like a falling comet. Zhao Gao's pupils constricted as he sensed danger. He subconsciously wanted to dodge, but just as he soared into the air, Zhou Xuanji suddenly used universal attraction, pulling Zhao Gao's over and smashing his sword towards him. Bang! A strong light burst forth and a horrifying sword qi wreaked havoc between heaven and earth. Feng Yuxiu hurriedly cast a light shield of mana to protect herself and Marquis. Sword qi wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing the two of them to be unable to see their surroundings clearly. This scene caused Marquis' blood to boil. He gripped his fists and muttered, "You have to win." The earlier they could win, the more lives they could save. Sword qi continuously rumbled, as if the heavens and earth were collapsing and the end of the world was coming. After a while, Marquis and Feng Yuxiu suddenly heard the sound of swords clashing. Could it be? Marquis' eyes widened and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The intense light gradually dimmed, and they finally saw Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Gao's figures. Zhao Gao's was covered with blood, but his attacks were still incredibly powerful. Zhou Xuanji's black clothes fluttered, and he was not injured at all. He seemed to have the upper hand. "Zhou Xuanji, you are indeed very powerful," Zhao Gao said, his tone still cold. Zhou Xuanji said coldly, "My power is far from just this." He condensed his battle path flame soul, and azure flames wrapped around the white light. He used sword sect Immortal Ghost Weep and had the other swords defend against Zhao Gao's attacks while he raised the 9-moon execution sword high and gathered the divine moon's energy. The Abyss Pearl mainland violently trembled. At this critical juncture, the Abyss Pearl mainland understood that the crucial battle was coming. It was going to give all of its power to Zhou Xuanji so that he could take revenge for it. Flash floods and tsunamis rose up. This was the divine moon's roar. It was not willing to become the Abyss Pearl mainland that all creatures could trample on. It was the high and mighty divine moon that looked down on all creatures. Zhao Gao's panicked. He could sense that the heavens and earth were sending some sort of power into Zhou Xuanji, and Zhou Xuanji's aura was continuously rising. Zhou Xuanji's expression became one of pain. Even though he had Universe Heaven Level 8 cultivation, he could not withstand such berserk divine moon's energy. Zhao Gao's rushed at Zhou Xuanji. He came in front of Zhou Xuanji in a single step, and his golden fan gave off countless lightning bolts, turning into a lightning net that wrapped around Zhou Xuanji. White light exploded out from Zhou Xuanji's body, blocking all of the lightning. The 9 sword souls behind him madly shot out, forcing Zhao Gao's to continuously retreat. "Zhao Gao's, I'll give you the same words. You are indeed very powerful, but it's a pity that I can't truly fight with you. You're going to die," Zhou Xuanji said in a low voice as he looked down at Zhao Gao's. After speaking, he ferociously threw out the 9-moon execution sword. The sword turned into a ray of white light and shot into the sky before suddenly descending towards Zhao Gao's. Within the turbid heavens and earth, this ray of white light was incredibly brilliant and eye-catching. The sword was incredibly fast. Zhao Gao sensed danger and instinctively dodged. However, the 9-moon execution sword suddenly sped up. Powerful light flashed. World-suppressing. Boom! The 9-moon execution sword pressed down on Zhao Gao's as it fell into the ruined ground. The ground violently trembled and the ice and snow melted. Oceans rose up and roiled. Zhou Xuanji instantly felt a massive wave of magic energy enter his body. His mental state instantly recovered, and he raised his right hand as the 9-moon execution sword flew back into his hand. He smirked and muttered, "Zhao Gao's, I hope you have a next life. I've won this battle." He cancelled the divine moon state and immediately started to break through. The 9 moon execution sword's divine moon energy helped to suppress the surging magic energy within his body. Rumble. Thunderclouds gathered, and heavenly law fate descended, scattering the turbid heavens and earth and shining on Zhou Xuanji's body. He really won. Feng Yuxiu's eyes widened, unable to understand. Why did the Abyss Pearl mainland disregard everything to help Zhou Xuanji? Why could Zhou Xuanji endure this power that surpassed universe heaven? Marquis felt incredibly excited and loudly laughed as he said, "Victory! Victory!" After Zhou Xuanji finished absorbing the heavenly law fate, the war between two worlds was about to end. The Center God province had been saved. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji's aura madly became stronger. Soon, he broke through to universe heaven level 9. And he was still continuously rising. Very good. Let's keep this up. Zhou Xuanji said excitedly. When he returned to the Center God province, it would be time for him to rule the world. Even without such a powerful divine moon state, he would still be able to sweep across the world. If he met malicious Buddha again, he would make that fellow taste despair. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 523. The pillar of light formed by heavenly law fate was like the only source of light in this dark world, and Zhou Xuanji, who was within it, was like a god. Old ancestor Hongshu's voice suddenly rang out, cold and emotionless. The war between the two worlds has ended. All living beings in the Abyss Pearl mainland have perished. As soon as he finished speaking, all the living beings on the Abyss Pearl mainland, regardless of where they were turned into ashes in succession without any pain. Zhou Xuanji and the others were fine and waited silently. The fairness of the heavenly Tao was merciless. The winner was king, and the loser perished. In less than 5 breaths of time, all living beings disappeared. Meanwhile, Sage Daojing's voice rang out in the Center God province. The war between two worlds has ended. Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji destroyed the Abyss Pearl mainland by himself. Center God province. Victory. Every living being in the Center God province could hear it. In an instant, cheers shook the world. Zhou Xuanji is so powerful. He's too strong. He's going to destroy an entire world by himself. We don't have to die. From today onwards, who dares to offend Zhou Xuanji? Am I dreaming? How could he win by himself? Do you dare to doubt the words of the heavenly saint? The entire world was in an uproar, and every city was shouting Zhou Xuanji's name. Within the Divine Cliff's mansion, Zhou Shaoxian hugged Jiang Shui and screamed in excitement. Xiao Chan and Bai Suwen were also very excited. Jiang Shui did not seem to be too excited. She had a smile on her face, and her eyes were calm, because she had always believed that Zhou Xuanji would win. Within the Center God province, everyone who had connections with Zhou Xuanji was shocked. Was this guy already this terrifying? The Abyss Pearl mainland. Within the dark world, Zhou Xuanji's cultivation reached universe heaven level 10, and the pillar of heavenly law fate began to dissipate. An irresistible suction force bound him and pulled him up. So did Marquis. Feng Yuxiu remained where she was, quietly looking up at her. Zhou Xuanji looked at her and said, "Thank you for your help." From the beginning to the end, Feng Yuxiu had never made any requests of him. She only followed him. Because of Feng Yuxiu, he understood the higher sky. If we meet again in the future, I hope you will be even stronger, Feng Yuxiu said. Her voice traveled into Zhou Xuanji's ears from afar. In the dark and cold wind, she felt as if she would be swallowed up at any time. Zhou Xuanji lightly nodded. Soon, he and Marquis turned into 2 rays of rainbow light and flew into the sky. When they were far away from the ground, they saw another beam of light sweeping over from the ground, quickly approaching them. Wang Ho cursed. That bastard really isn't dead. He's been hiding all along. He was very displeased. He had accompanied Zhou Xuanji through trials and tribulations. Even though he did not put in much effort, he still followed along. Where was Emperor Wu Wang? He actually took advantage of the time when they were sharing the pressure and went to cultivate alone. This was simply intolerable. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. For some reason, Great Emperor Wu Wang gave him a sense of danger. It even made him feel a trace of disgust. This feeling was involuntary and extremely strange. Zhou Xuanji stored all his legendary swords into the supreme storage and waited to return to the Center God Province. The three beams of light merged together, and they saw great Emperor Wu Wang. At this moment, Emperor Wu Wang had become incomparably demonic. His eyes were crimson, and his body had become muscular. His hair had grown all the way to his heels. What happened? Wang Ho asked with a frown. Could this guy have gone mad? Emperor Wu Wang's lips curled up into a devilish smile. I'm fine. I merely obtained a fortuitous encounter. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, This battle was all thanks to you. Zhou Xuanji nodded lightly and did not say anything. Great Emperor Wu Wang walked to a corner and sat down cross-legged, continuing to cultivate. He did not feel any joy from winning the battle. Something strange. Wang Ho rubbed his chin and mumbled to himself. He purposely said this to Great Emperor Wu Wang, but Great Emperor Wu Wang did not respond. They were sucked into the universe and quickly flew toward the Center God Province. Zhou Xuanji turned around and looked at the vast starry sky. The void! He fell into a daze and remembered Feng Yuxiu's description. He had a premonition that one day, he would head into the void to search for even more powerful power. A long while later, they returned to Still Thought Temple. Sage Dao Jing was looking at them with a smile. Wang Ho asked first, How are the casualties in the Center God Province? Sage Dao Jing stroked his long beard and said with a smile, Fortunately, a junior called Gu Tianxia appeared. He suppressed the 3 children of destiny in the Abyss Pearl mainland all by himself. In other words, the Center God Province did not encounter much danger. Zhou Xuanji and the others were stunned. Gu Tianxia. Zhou Xuanji suddenly remembered that eyeball. Could it really be Gu Tianxia's eye? No wonder Sage Dao Jing pulled it out from Zhou Xuanji's body. It was for the war between the 2 worlds. Such a shrewd person. Next, I will erase all living beings' memories of the war between the 2 worlds. Other than you and Gu Tianxia, no one will remember this war. Even if you mention it, they will not remember it. Sage Dao Jing said with a smile. Zhou Xuanji and the others had no objections. Zhou Xuanji felt a little regretful. He had acted so cool for so long, but no one remembered. It was good that the enemies did not know his true power. But he did not know if the living beings in the other provinces knew what happened in the Center God Province during this period. Don't worry. Once the war between the 2 worlds begins, it will be isolated from the other worlds. Other than the mortals who ascended from the lower realm, no other living beings can enter, nor can they use their divine sense to get any information. Sage Dao Jing said as he stared at Zhou Xuanji as though he could read minds. Zhou Xuanji felt a chill down his spine. Okay, you can leave now. Of course, you can also stay in Still Thought Temple to cultivate. Sage Dao Jing said with a smile before closing his eyes. Marquis was a little stunned and asked, Is there no reward? Sage Dao Jing replied without opening his eyes. You should have received a great serendipity. This is your reward. Zhou Xuanji smiled and left. Great Emperor Wu Wang bowed to Sage Dao Jing and left as well. Marquis was furious and said, I did not receive any serendipity. Not only did he not receive any serendipity, but he was also tortured for a period of time. No matter how he tried to explain, Sage Dao Jing ignored him, which made him stomp his feet in anger. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wu Wang walked out of Still Thought Temple. Great Emperor Wu Wang looked at him and said, Zhou Xuanji, you are very powerful. You are much more powerful than before. I hope that we will never be enemies. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him with a faint smile and said, I rarely nurture my enemies. Great Emperor Wu Wang smiled and disappeared on the spot. Zhou Xuanji followed him into the Sea of Clouds and flew toward the Divine Cliff. Universe Heaven Level 10 was extremely powerful. He passed through the 32nd heaven swiftly. After returning to the Divine Cliff, he appeared in the courtyard straightaway. Jiang Shui, who was cultivating under a tree, opened her eyes and snorted, Where did you go during the Heavenly Saints' Tao preaching? How dare you leave us behind without saying a word? Zhou Xuanji walked up to her and squatted down. He touched her face and said with a smile, I was brought away by the Heavenly Saint to cultivate in Still Thought Temple. I came back to see you. Chapter 524. It seems like the Heavenly Saint thinks very highly of you. Jiang Shui held Zhou Xuanji's arm and said with a smile, Her eyes were filled with tenderness as she looked at him. This was her man. He was indomitable and dazzling no matter where he went. Xueqi smiled and said, "Tell me, if one day the heavenly saint erases your memory and you cannot remember me, what should you do?" Jiang Shui frowned slightly and said, "I will definitely remember you." She suddenly felt a little worried. The heavenly saints were powerful and almost omnipotent. It was not difficult for them to erase her memories. She was a little worried and said, "Why don't you leave me something or a mark? Let me know that you are the most important person to me when I see it." Seeing how nervous she was, Xueqi laughed out loud. This girl was still as adorable as before. Xueqi began to think about what he should leave behind. If one day, he really became an enemy of the heavenly saints, he had to be careful. Then they got up and went to see Zhou Shaoxian, Bai Suwen, and the others. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Tsongjian, and the others had already ascended to the Center God Province, while Chen Bantian, Meng Tianlang, Lin Changge, and Ning Zifeng were out adventuring. Emperor Sword Court had Daoya Old Man, Bei Xiao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, Han Shenhua, and the others. With Xueqi adventuring in the Center God Province, no one in Emperor Sword Court would rebel. As for an enemy attack, it was even more impossible. Bei Xiao Wangjian and the others already had the cultivation of a great tribulation scattered immortal after listening to the preaching. It was not a problem for them to roam the mortal world. 2 hours later, Xueqi came to the Cliff Master Palace and met Yang Yutian. Yang Yutian was dealing with the affairs of the Divine Cliff. For some reason, Xueqi felt that something was wrong with him. There was a baleful aura and fatigue on his face. "Are you okay?" Xueqi asked. Yang Yutian was the Lord of the Divine Cliff after all. Even though he was not as talented as Han Xuzi, he did not cause any trouble for the Divine Cliff. Yang Yutian shook his head and laughed. "How could anything happen to me? You don't have to worry." In the entire sect, he would only smile when facing Xueqi. Xueqi said intently, "I've been cultivating with the heavenly saint for a while, and things are different now. If the Divine Cliff has any difficulties in the future, just tell me directly. Don't be afraid of making enemies." In order to protect him, the Divine Cliff had suffered countless casualties. He naturally had to protect them. No matter who dared to harm the Divine Cliff, he would not show mercy. Yang Yutian was taken aback, and a look of struggle flashed in his eyes. He forced a smile and said, "If there are any difficulties, I will look for you." After saying so much, Xueqi could not say anything more. The two of them exchanged some pleasantries before he left. Looking at his departing back, Yang Yutian sighed softly. After the war between the two realms ended, the Center God Province regained its peace. Mo Jiuqing was still seeking revenge everywhere, and immortal soldiers and immortal generals would occasionally descend to the mortal world to eliminate evil. There were also fights between the various factions. Xueqi felt like it was a lifetime ago. His cultivation level was at the Universe Heaven Stage level 10, which made him feel like he was looking at a mortal. It wasn't that his temperament was inflated, it was the level of his realm. Ordinary people would never truly treat ants as equals. They would only give them the respect they deserved verbally. Xueqi returned to the northern wilderness region and passed the seeds he collected to Daoya Old Man for him to plant. After that, he left the mortal world and came to the void between the mortal world and the vast thousand world. The void between planes was pitch black, and only those at the heavenly law true God realm could see. He took out demon god Tianwu's clone and began to study it. He was very curious as to why demon god Tianwu's body was so terrifying. He first used his divine abilities on demon god Tianwu, continuously increasing his power. Finally, he found that he could not harm demon god Tianwu at all. "I've found a treasure," Xueqi said excitedly. Demon god Tianwu had already become his clone and listened to him completely. It could fight instinctively, so he did not have to be too distracted during battles. Xueqi continued to study demon god Tianwu's body. He found that this fellow's muscles were ridiculously powerful. They were the toughest thing he had ever seen. A month quickly passed. He still could not understand the secret behind demon god Tianwu's power. He could only attribute it to his race's talent. Tao Lord Xintian said that the 10 great demon gods were the ancestors and pinnacle of the demon race. They had once dominated the various great thousand worlds, but because they were too powerful, the other races joined forces to resist them. In the end, they were defeated. The demon race mixed with other races and reproduced. Until today, the demon race's bloodline was no longer pure. The only true demon left was the demonic ancestor. This demonic ancestor was once one of the 10 great demon gods. He was extremely powerful and was one of the most powerful beings below the heavenly saints. This day, Zhou Xuanji stored demon god Tianwu into the Tianxia map and prepared to leave. Stop. Hand over the demon god's body. Or else, don't blame me for being ruthless. A cold cry came. The voice was filled with an oppressive aura. Zhou Xuanji turned around and saw a muscular man with 6 wings looking at him. This person was wearing heavy bronze armor. His face was like a ferocious tiger, and his brown hair fluttered in the wind. Universe Heaven Level 10. No wonder he dared to find trouble with him. Zhou Xuanji took out the 9-moon execution sword and said with a faint smile, "What if I refuse? You want to kill me? Can you?" His provocative words enraged the 6-winged man immediately. He immediately took out a large saber and charged at Zhou Xuanji. Before he arrived, his saber chi swept over like a phantom in the void. Zhou Xuanji blocked it easily with his sword soul. Since the other party was seeking death, then don't blame him for being ruthless. He activated the primordial chaos sword shadow straightaway. A billion sword shadows filled the void and surrounded the 6-winged man. The 6-winged man's expression changed slightly. Just when he was about to speak, the billion sword shadows charged toward him simultaneously. Boom! The sword chi exploded, radiating a brilliant radiance that illuminated the void. Zhou Xuanji was expressionless. He watched for a while before turning around slowly. The other party was already dead. At the same cultivation stage, to find trouble with him was no different from seeking death. Zhou Xuanji stepped out of the void and returned to the northern wilderness region. Then, he came to the divine cliff through the portal. Killing the 6-winged man was a small matter to him, so he did not take it to heart. Just when he returned to his residence, Fei Hai came to find him. "Senior, the great heaven god dynasty is preparing to execute Di Guanlong. They invited everyone to witness it. You received the invitation too." After Fei Hai spoke, he took out a red invitation. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. The old beggar had not saved Di Guanlong yet? Could something have happened? He opened the invitation. The execution would take place on the Great Heaven God Dynasty's God platform in 8 months. After some thought, he decided to go and take a look. With his current cultivation, there was no point in continuing to cultivate. It was better to travel around. On the same day, he left with Jiang Shui. As for Zhou Shaoxian, Shao Chan, and Bai Suan, they wanted to follow, but Zhou Xuanji rejected them, which made them quite depressed. It was rare for him to have a chance to be alone with his wife. He could not wait for others to accompany him. The two left on the clouds like a celestial couple. We can try to give Shaoxian a younger brother on the way. Chapter 525. Zhou Xuanji flew very slowly and preached to Jiang Shui along the way. Jiang Shui's cultivation was already at 7th tribulation scattered immortal. After the heavenly saints' preaching, her cultivation grew tremendously. She was not any slower than Chen Bantian and Meng Tianlang. Zhou Xuanji's cultivation far surpassed hers. He could use his words to bring her into a state of enlightenment, which allowed her cultivation to grow rapidly. Along the way, he preached and thought about what to prepare for Jiang Shui. Even though she had lost her memory, she knew that Zhou Xuanji was the most important person to her. In the end, he decided to take out a piece of jade pendant and create a virtual illusion. He wanted Jiang Shui to say something, just like recording a video with a mobile phone. When she poured her mana into the jade pendant, the illusion would appear. He felt that it was not enough. What if the girl did not believe him? They walked and stopped along the way, sightseeing and sightseeing. It was quite an interesting and carefree journey. Above the 33rd heaven, before Still Thought Temple, a man with a head full of white hair knelt in front of the gate. He wore a large robe embroidered with a red flame pattern, and he wore a silver circlet on his head. His face was cold, and his eyes were purple without pupils. The boy who was sweeping the floor swept his eyes again and again without speaking. Some time later, the gate of Still Thought Temple opened suddenly, and a powerful force swept the fiery-robed man into the temple. Next, the gate closed again. Deep within the temple, Sage Daojing sat on the praying mat and did not even open his eyes. He said, Zhao Kanglin, I know why you have come, but you should understand the rules of the war between two worlds. If you continue to persist in going about things the wrong way, I will personally destroy you. Even old ancestor Hongsher will not be able to escape this matter. The fiery-robed man called Zhao Kanglin gritted his teeth. He was unwilling to give up. His beloved son, Zhao Gaos, died in Zhou Xuanji's hands. He could not take this lying down. Putting his feelings aside, he had spent a lot of effort on Zhao Gaos. After knowing that Zhao Gaos was dead, he vomited blood on the spot. He came to Still Thought Temple straight away and begged Sage Daojing to let him into the Center God Province. Hearing Sage Daojing's rejection, Zhao Kanglin gritted his teeth. He flipped his right hand, and a palm-sized yellow parchment appeared in his hand. He raised his hand and passed it to Sage Daojing. Sage Daojing sensed something and opened his eyes. He took the yellow parchment and looked at it closely. This is... Sage Daojing's eyes widened as if he had seen something unbelievable. After all, he was a heavenly saint. How could there be an existence that could shock him? Zhao Kanglin said, I found this in the void, but I didn't hand it over to old ancestor Hongsher, which shows my sincerity. I also believe that you won't tell him about this. His eyes flickered and his face darkened. Taking out this treasure made his heart bleed. Sage Daojing's gaze changed as he weighed the pros and cons. In the end, he said, I can give you a chance to take revenge, but after all, Zhou Xuanji has contributed greatly to the Center God Province. How about this? Give him 10 years, and I will tell him in advance to have him prepare. I will not provide any help, and after 10 years, I will leave this great thousand world. You should understand why I will leave. Zhao Kanglin agreed without hesitation. He cupped his fists and said, If you can find the great Tao, I hope you can give me a chance to live. For this item, I almost died. Sage Daojing was expressionless as he said, Wait in Still Thought Temple for now. You are not allowed to leave within 10 years. Zhao Kanglin had no objections. He walked to the side and began to meditate. Under the blue sky and white clouds, Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui lay on a hill, enjoying the gentle breeze. Following their gaze, there were undulating mountains in front of them. They were extremely beautiful and relaxed. At this moment, Sage Daojing appeared on the mountain peak and looked down at the two of them. Zhou Xuanji sensed something and got up. Seeing that it was Sage Daojing, he was a little surprised. Why is this old guy here? Sage Daojing looked calm and said, Zhou Xuanji, I have something to tell you. Jiang Shui got up and walked to the top of the mountain with Zhou Xuanji. What is it? Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. Sage Daojing did not hide anything and told her about his deal with Zhao Kanglin. Zhou Xuanji was silent. Jiang Shui, on the other hand, was furious. She clenched her fist and asked, Aren't you a heavenly saint? What else can tempt you? In her eyes, the heavenly saint was already the most powerful being, on par with the heavenly law. Sage Daojing said faintly, The heavenly saints look powerful, but they are actually the puppets of the heavenly law. I found an opportunity to surpass the heavenly saint. After 10 years, I will leave Wanshan Great Thousand. By then, Wanshan Great Thousand will not be suppressed by the heavenly saints. With Zhou Xuanji's cultivation, he should be able to handle it. He flipped his right hand and injected a ball of violet qi into Zhou Xuanji's body. Jiang Shui became even more anxious and quickly checked Zhou Xuanji's body. This is the heavenly law violet qi. Under the heavenly law there are only 9. It represents the opportunity to become a saint. If I can surpass the heavenly saint or die, you can become a saint with this qi. Sage Daojing said, and Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui's expressions changed. Heavenly law violet qi. Become a saint? Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and asked, How powerful is Zhao Kanglin? Now that it had come to this, he could not say anything more. Since they wanted to fight, then let's fight. Connecting Heaven Stage 1. Sage Daojing replied, which made Zhou Xuanji frown. He had indeed surpassed Universe Heaven. Jiang Shui was curious. What was Connecting Heaven Stage 1? Sage Daojing replied, In the mortal world, qi nurturing begins. It goes through foundation building, enlightening, inner pellet, soul fountain, astral infant, astral projection, spirit refinement, great realization and so on. After surpassing mortals, one reaches 9 tribulations scattered immortal. Beyond that is golden immortal 10th revolution, void extreme immortal, heavenly law true God, universe heaven level 18, and connecting heaven 10. If one reaches connecting heaven 10, he will be qualified to become a saint. But without the heavenly law violet chi, he cannot become a saint. Connecting heaven 10. Xueqi suddenly remembered the grades of his legendary swords. Ancient gazing, disaster releasing, universe essence, overturning heaven, connecting heaven, 9 extreme, primordial chaos. Could it be that connecting heaven 10 and the 9 extreme represented the 9 saints? What about primordial chaos? Surpassing the heavenly law? Sage Daojing's body gradually turned transparent. He stared at Xueqi and said, I see hope in you. If I fail to become a saint, I hope you can manage Wanshan Great Thousand well. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. From the beginning to the end, he was never worried that Xueqi would be killed by Zhao Kanglin. Xueqi could not calm his emotions and fell into silence. Jiang Shui was anxious. Xuanji, what should we do now? Connecting Heaven Stage 1. She remembered that Xueqi had just broken through to Universe Heaven. It was impossible for him to surpass the gap of 18 levels. Xueqi smiled and said, Don't worry. I won't die. After that, he took out the ancient god sword and communicated with the 9 souls. This time, he introduced the 9 souls to Jiang Shui. Jiang Shui was shocked to know that the souls of Lu Wuji, Emperor Zhao, and the other ancestors were in the ancient god sword. As for the origin of the ancient god sword, she did not ask further. Chapter 526. The ancient god sword floated in the air, and the 9 souls appeared like 9 shadows swaying in the air. No, becoming a heavenly saint isn't good. Even if I want to become an overlord saint, I have to become one. Dao Master Xuantian's soul shook his head, making Jiang Shui curious. What was an overlord saint? However, Xueqi understood that this was most likely the path that demon god Tianwu walked on. After becoming a saint, he would become an overlord saint and would not be controlled by the heavenly law. Emperor Zhao grumbled, All right then, give me the heavenly Dao violet chi, and we'll be invincible together. As soon as he said that, the other souls mocked and ridiculed him. You haven't even been resurrected and you're already thinking of becoming a saint? Xueqi's eyes brightened. He looked at Jiang Shui and said, When the time comes, I will walk the path of the overlord saint, and you will walk the path of the heavenly saint. In the future, I will walk the path of the transcending saint and come back to help you. Isn't that perfect? Jiang Shui said hesitantly, The overlord sage is definitely dangerous. Don't take the risk. He had not even dealt with Zhao Kanglin, and this guy was already thinking about becoming a sage. She really wanted to pry open his head and see what he was thinking. Let's continue our journey. We'll kill Zhao Kanglin in 10 years. Xueqi put away the ancient god sword and held Jiang Shui's hand as he smiled. Jiang Shui curled her lips and said, Are you really confident in dealing with him? By the way, how did you become enemies with him? What is the War of the Two Realms? She was so confused by the conversation that she forgot to ask. She was so attracted by the fact that Zhao Kanglin wanted to kill Xueqi that she forgot to ask. Xueqi gave a simple explanation, and Jiang Shui cried out in shock. She said fearfully, The heavenly saint can really erase my memory. No, I have to hurry up and cultivate. I can't forget you. She had no recollection of the War of the Two Realms, and this feeling terrified her. Xueqi hooked her nose and smiled. Let's not talk about cultivation for now. Xiao Xian wants a little brother, so we must hurry. Jiang Shui rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. You should be the one working hard on this, okay? In the blink of an eye, the day of Di Guanlong's execution had arrived. On the altar of the great heaven god dynasty, Di Guanlong knelt on the ground, shackles on his body. His eyes were lifeless, and his body was covered in wounds. It was hard to imagine what he had experienced. The edge of the divine altar was packed with people. Di Guanlong was a famous expert in the Center God province. He had been the most talented genius in the Center God province until Xueqi appeared. In the distance, within a building, Shi Shenzong stood in front of a window and looked at the god platform. A white-haired old man was drinking wine in the room. He wore a Taoist robe and held a sword in his right hand. Even when he was pouring wine, the sword never left his side. He was Sword Sovereign Gu. In the Center God Province, he was the one with the highest attainment in Sword Dao. He was also one of the top powerhouses in the Center Continent. Stop looking. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor's cultivation has reached Universe Heaven Realm Level 8. No one in the Center God Province can defeat him. Even if I were to fight him, I would have to fight him. In his heart, Di Guanlong was already a dead man. However, he was very curious as to who stood behind Di Guanlong. According to his understanding, there was definitely an expert behind Di Guanlong. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor probably thought so too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have caused such a commotion. Universe Heaven Level 8. Xueqi muttered to himself, his voice filled with yearning. His cultivation had already reached Early Void Extreme Immortal, thanks to the Heavenly Saints' Tao lectures. He remembered witnessing Zhou Xuanji's breakthrough in the preaching hall. Sword Sovereign Gu said that Zhou Xuanji had already reached Universe Heaven Level 1. The gap between the two grew bigger and bigger. But he was not discouraged. Instead, he was filled with fighting spirit. Many powerful cultivators who shook the Center God Province gathered near the God platform. All the major factions had sent people over. They had to give face to the Great Heaven Divine Emperor. At the same time, they saw something fishy. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor wanted to kill Di Guanlong. There must be a deeper reason behind it. Tens of thousands of soldiers with powerful auras circled above the God platform to prevent anyone from entering. Time passed minute by minute. The scorching sun hung high above their heads, and the Great Heaven Divine Emperor descended suddenly. He wore a majestic golden dragon emperor robe and a crown on his head. His expression was indifferent, and a domineering aura could be sensed from between his brows. Another person followed behind him. This person had a handsome face and was dressed luxuriously in a golden robe. Every move he made was filled with arrogance. Emperor Jun Dao. A first-class Great Emperor. His ranking on the Great Emperor Stele was even higher than Zhou Xuanji's. The two landed on the God platform. Armored generals appeared one after another and knelt in a line. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor looked at Di Guanlong and said loudly, Di Guanlong trampled on the dignity of the God dynasty. Today, his head will strengthen the God dynasty's prestige. His blood will strengthen the God dynasty's domineering aura. At the same time, we will auction Di Guanlong's corpse. Anyone who is interested in the Tao of puppets can bid for it. Boom! The crowd around the God platform was in an uproar. Killing people and selling corpses. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor was too vicious. Emperor Jun Dao raised his chin. Hearing the uproar around him, he did not care at all. He hated Di Guanlong to the core. Because he lost to Di Guanlong too miserably. Clang! The Great Heaven Divine Emperor drew his sword and was prepared to behead Di Guanlong himself. This silenced the discussion. Was Di Guanlong really going to die here? With me here, who dares to kill Di Guanlong? At this moment, a voice resounded across the heavens and the earth. Everyone turned around in shock. They saw Zhou Xuanji walking over with the 9-moon execution sword in his hand. Jiang Shui sat on the sword net formed by the 5 legendary swords and followed closely behind him. Zhou Xuanji. Xueqi opened his eyes wide. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to appear at this moment. It didn't make sense. How come he had never heard of Zhou Xuanji being related to Di Guanlong? He suddenly remembered that when he returned to the Divine Cliff with Zhou Xuanji, they met Di Guanlong and an old beggar. That old beggar wanted to take Zhou Xuanji as his disciple. Could it be? He frowned. With his understanding of Zhou Xuanji, he would not take Zhou Xuanji as his master so easily. Who was that old beggar? I can't see through him. Sword Sovereign Gu cried out in shock, looking confused. Could it be that Zhou Xuanji had some secret treasure that hid his cultivation? At the same time, the Great Heaven Divine Emperor frowned too. He could not see through Zhou Xuanji either. Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji. He's Zhou Xuanji? That's right. It's him. I saw him at the Heavenly Saint Dojo. Back then, his breakthrough was extremely shocking, and everyone was watching. So he's Zhou Xuanji. Such a powerful aura. Is he really only 200 years old? Why do I feel that his aura is not any weaker than the Great Heaven Divine Emperor? Why did he come to save Di Guanlong? Everyone cried out in shock and disgust among themselves. No one expected Zhou Xuanji to come. After all, Zhou Xuanji was not related to Di Guanlong at all. The great Heaven Divine Emperor looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Sword Emperor, what do you mean by this?" His tone was unpleasant and contained a hint of threat. Zhou Xuanji was not afraid of him at all. After the war between the two worlds, he had been reborn, including his temperament. If I want him to live, he must live. No one can stop me. If you don't understand, then ask the sword in my hand, Zhou Xuanji said with a cold smile as he walked toward the great Heaven Divine Emperor. Chapter 527. Ask the sword in my hand. Whoosh! The sea of people around the spirit platform was shocked by Zhou Xuanji's prowess. Zhou Xuanji was the publicly acknowledged genius of the Center God Province and the Sword Emperor recognized by the heavenly law. He was powerful indeed. But compared to the great Heaven Divine Emperor, he was still young. They were not existences of the same generation. The great Heaven God Emperor laughed out of anger. He pointed his sword at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Zhou Xuanji, you are really arrogant. You think you can do whatever you want just because you became the Sword Emperor?" At the Heavenly Saint Dojo, he was there too and witnessed Zhou Xuanji breaking through to Universe Heaven Level 1. But it was only one level. Beside him, Emperor Jundao also looked at Zhou Xuanji unkindly. Among those in the same generation, he was often compared to Zhou Xuanji. When he had appeared out of nowhere, he had once suppressed Zhou Xuanji's fame. It was a pity that Zhou Xuanji was too powerful and quickly left him behind. Looking at Zhou Xuanji now, Emperor Jundao's gaze was naturally unfriendly. Zhou Xuanji flew above the God platform and looked down at the great Heaven God Emperor. "I don't like to talk nonsense." After speaking, he used all things return to origin and sucked Di Guanlong over. The great Heaven Divine Emperor was furious. How dare they snatch someone from under his nose? He immediately reached out and pressed down on Di Guanlong's shoulder. Sword light flashed. Puchi! The great Heaven God Emperor's right arm was chopped off, and Di Guanlong flew toward Zhou Xuanji. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. They did not even see Zhou Xuanji attack, and the great Heaven God Emperor lost an arm? This was also. Emperor Jundao also wanted to attack, but he suddenly met Zhou Xuanji's gaze. In an instant, his entire body was frozen in place. An indescribable fear enveloped his heart, causing his soul to tremble. Emperor's might. He stumbled backward and did not dare to look into Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Soon, Di Guanlong fell into Zhou Xuanji's hands. Jiang Shui also opened her eyes wide on the sword web. She knew about the great Heaven God Emperor's position in the Center God Province, but Zhou Xuanji had the upper hand. No wonder he wasn't afraid of Zhao Kanglin's threat. Jiang Shui's eyes lit up as she thought curiously. What had happened in the war between the two worlds? How strong was Xuanji now? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the great Heaven Divine Emperor was both shocked and furious that he was injured. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was about to leave, he cried out loudly, "Did this emperor allow you to leave?" If they let Zhou Xuanji leave today, the great Heaven God dynasty would lose all face. Zhou Xuanji looked back at him and said coldly, "Do you want to die?" Facing his gaze, the great Heaven Divine Emperor's heart thumped wildly as a chill filled his heart. He wanted to make a move, but his instincts told him that the other party was very dangerous. If he were to make a move, he would most likely lose. Seeing how powerful Zhou Xuanji was, the spectators all held their breaths and did not even dare to breathe too loudly. Within the building, Shi Shenzong's expression was complicated. Was Zhou Xuanji already this powerful? Sword Sovereign Gu, who was behind him, stared at Zhou Xuanji and remained silent. His cultivation has surpassed Universe Heaven Level 8. How is this possible? How many years has it been? Cold sweat covered Sword Sovereign Gu's forehead. He had wanted to find an opportunity to take Zhou Xuanji as his disciple. From the looks of it, the great Heaven God Emperor hesitated, while Zhou Xuanji left with Di Guanlong and Jiang Shui. Until they disappeared into the horizon, the great Heaven God Emperor snorted coldly and disappeared. He did not even have the face to welcome the guests. Boom! Everyone was excited. Zhou Xuanji's sword strike scared the great Heaven God Emperor so much that he did not dare to make a move. It was evident that Zhou Xuanji was more powerful than the great Heaven God Emperor, And not just by a little. How powerful is he? More powerful than the great heaven god emperor. Is Xueqi the most powerful cultivator in the Center God province? In the Center God province, can you find someone more powerful than the great heaven god emperor? This is a legend, a myth. He became the most powerful cultivator in the Center God province at just 200 years old. So domineering. Hearing these voices, Emperor Dao wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. He understood that from now on, he was not even qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as Xueqi. He hated Xueqi in his heart, but when he thought of their gazes just now, he was only left with fear. Xueqi flew swiftly with Jiang Shui and Di Guanlong. He took out the Holy Light Redemption Sword to heal Di Guanlong. Jiang Shui asked excitedly, "Xuanji, what stage are you at now?" Xueqi smiled, "Universe Heaven Level 10. Having heard that, Jiang Shui opened her eyes wide. She guessed that Xueqi was at level 4 or 5, but she did not expect him to be at Universe Heaven Level 10. This was. Her surprise soon turned into heartache. The more powerful he was, the more suffering he would have to go through. A while later, Di Guanlong regained consciousness. He looked up and saw Xueqi and Jiang Shui's backs. "Who are you?" he asked with difficulty. Xueqi glanced at him and said, "Take good care of yourself." If not for the fact that they were fellow disciples, he would not have saved Di Guanlong. He really wanted to know where the old beggar was. Could that guy have been captured by the great Emperor Dao Court? Just when Di Guanlong wanted to speak, a heavy sense of drowsiness overwhelmed him, and he closed his eyes immediately. Some time later, he finally woke up. He was shocked to find himself lying in a cave with a letter on his chest. He opened it and saw the following words. "The one who saved you is the Sword Emperor, Xueqi. No need to thank me." He fell into silence. He already knew that Xueqi had become his junior brother, but he did not expect this brat to save him. Could it be that his revered teacher helped him as well? Xueqi and Jiang Shui continued their sightseeing tour. He did not take the battle with Zhao Kanglin to heart. Even if he could not activate the divine moon state, he still had demon god Tianwu as his trump card. Jiang Shui saw that he was full of confidence and did not mention it again. Xueqi continued to preach to Jiang Shui and even enlightened her occasionally. Within 5 years, Jiang Shui became a 9th tribulation scattered immortal. This was the power of a powerhouse. On the other side, on the 33rd heaven, old ancestor Hongshe came looking for him suddenly. After entering Still Thought Temple, he immediately found Sage Dao Jing and saw Zhao Kanglin. "Why are you here?" Old ancestor Hongshe asked with a frown. Zhao Kanglin's expression was unnatural and did not know how to answer. Sage Dao Jing said, "He wants to take revenge on Xueqi. I asked him to wait for a while before I let him battle with Xueqi." Old ancestor Hongshe was astonished and asked, "You are willing to abandon Xueqi? Then give him to me." After that, he stared at Zhao Kanglin, and Zhao Kanglin dared not to speak even though he was furious. "I plan to nurture him into the next heavenly saint. I have decided to head into the void and search for an opportunity to surpass the saint." Sage Daojing continued to speak with a calm look in his eyes. He did not mention his deal with Zhao Kanglin at all. Old ancestor Hongshe frowned and sat down in front of Sage Daojing. He said with a deep voice, "You must consider this carefully. If you really want to give up your cultivation, you might be pursuing a path of no return." Most heavenly saints did not believe in the legend of surpassing the saint. In their eyes, the heavenly law was the highest. Everything could not escape the control of the heavenly law. Chapter 528. That's right. What's the point of being a heavenly saint? Sage Dao Jing stared at old ancestor Hongshe and said, after becoming a heavenly saint, nothing in the myriad worlds piqued their interest. There was no need to cultivate, because no matter how powerful they were still beneath the heavenly law. They arranged for the war between the two worlds to have fun. However, after each war, Sage Dao Jing realized that his interest in the war was diminishing. Now that he had the opportunity to surpass the heavenly saint, how could he give it up? Old ancestor Hongshe was silent. His mood was at rock bottom. All living beings in the myriad worlds admired the heavenly saints, but who could understand the dullness of a heavenly saint? Zhao Kanglin listened and cursed in his heart. You don't want to be a heavenly saint. Can you give me the position? Please, don't be so pretentious. Forget it. Up to you. I called you here because I have something to discuss. Since you are leaving, come with me to deal with someone before you leave. Old ancestor Hongshe waved his hand. Zhao Kanglin was curious. Which heavenly saint did he want to deal with? Only the heavenly saints needed to work together. Sage Daojing stood up and glanced at Zhao Kanglin. Don't do anything before I return. Once you break through the restrictions of the 33rd heaven, I will use a peerless divine ability to kill you. You won't have time to take revenge. Zhao Kanglin nodded lightly. He did not want to take revenge a few years in advance. A few years was not a big deal anyway. After that, Sage Daojing and old ancestor Hongshe left. Still Thought Temple fell into silence again. When Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui returned to the Divine Cliff, Jiang Shui was not pregnant with a second child. The difference in their cultivation was too great. There was a formless energy separating them. Zhou Xuanji guessed that it was the power of the heavenly law. Since it did not work, he did not force it. That day, Yang Yuqian came to visit him personally. He seemed very excited. After the battle at the spirit platform, Zhou Xuanji's fame grew again. More and more living beings thought that he was the most powerful cultivator in the Center God Province. The Divine Cliff's reputation grew because of this. More living beings came to seek the Tao, and more powerful beings befriended them. After the small talk, Zhou Xuanji began to teach Zhou Xiaoxian. Zhou Xiaoxuan's talent was not bad, and she was even more powerful than the 10,000-year prince. Ever since she knew that Zhou Xuanji had forcefully scared off the great heaven god emperor, she had been pestering him. Zhou Xuanji did not have high expectations for his daughter, but since she wanted to become more powerful, he would not stop her. The father and daughter came to the forest where Zhou Xuanji cultivated before and began to cultivate diligently. Zhou Xuanji imparted the sword soul to her. This girl's comprehension was also very high, and she quickly learned it. However, her sword soul was still very weak, and it could not even compare to Shi Shenzong's in the mortal world. Time flew by. 10 years had passed. Everything was peaceful. Until Zhao Kanglin's voice resounded throughout the Center God Province and the nearby states. Zhou Xuanji, go up to the 33rd heaven and fight me to the death. Zhao Kanglin's cold voice caused an uproar in the world. 33 heavens? Wasn't that the dojo of the heavenly saint? Who dared to challenge Zhou Xuanji in the heavenly saint's territory? In the forest. Father, who is he? Zhou Xiaoxian asked nervously. Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. A guy called Zhao Kanglin. He had no choice but to kill his son. He came to me for revenge. You continue to cultivate. I will be back soon. Then, he flew up and prepared to fly to the 33 levels of heaven. Father! Zhou Xiaoxian stopped him immediately. Zhou Xuanji looked down at her and asked, What's wrong? Looking at his lofty and calm demeanor, all the worries in Zhou Xiaoxuan's heart dissipated. She smiled like a flower and waved her sword, saying, Come back quickly. You must teach me how to form multiple sword souls. Zhou Xuanji smiled. He transformed into a stream of sword light and soared into the clouds, disappearing in an instant. Above the 33rd heaven, Zhao Kanglin stood under the starry sky with his arms crossed in front of his chest, waiting quietly. A row of people stood in front of the gate of Still Thought Temple. They were the powerhouses who were cultivating in Still Thought Temple. They came from various states in Wanshan Great Thousand. Connecting Heaven Stage 1. Powerful indeed. The Heavenly Saint really left? Interesting. It seems like Wanshan Great Thousand is going to face chaos again. Let's watch this show first. We will fight for the world in the future. Hee hee, you don't want the world but the position of saint, right? These powerhouses discussed and did not take Zhao Kanglin seriously at all. Connecting Heaven Stage 1 was powerful indeed, but it was not invincible below the Heavenly Saint. Soon, a stream of sword light flew up and reached Zhao Kanglin's height. It was Zhou Xuanji. The two of them were hundreds of meters apart, facing each other in the air. Zhao Kanglin was sizing Zhou Xuanji up, and Zhou Xuanji was sizing him up too. Universe Heaven Level 10. How did this brat kill his son? Zhao Kanglin frowned. Could it be that Sage Daojing was involved in the war between the two worlds? Zhou Xuanji took out the 9-moon execution sword and the cultivation-absorbing demon sealer. The power of the two disaster-releasing legendary swords exploded into his body, and his aura grew tremendously. The 9 divine moons appeared behind him majestically. "I see. You have 2 ultimate treasures," Zhao Kanglin said as he thought about it. He raised his right hand, and an axe covered in blood patterns appeared in his hand. Strands of black qi appeared out of nowhere and wrapped around the blood-patterned axe. It was horrifying. He and Zhou Xuanji moved almost at the same time. Boom! The 2 horrifying powers clashed with each other. Zhao Kanglin unleashed his full power and sent Zhou Xuanji flying with his axe. In that instant, Zhou Xuanji felt that his hands were about to split open. He noticed that there were many spectators in front of Still Thought Temple. He immediately used the 8-step sword lunge and teleported out of the 33 levels of heaven and into the void. The 33 levels of heaven was the outermost part of Wanshan Great Thousand. Any higher and he would leave Wanshan Great Thousand and arrive at the vast starry sky. It looked beautiful, but it was actually filled with countless murderous intents. This was the void. Zhao Kanglin was filled with murderous intent. How could he let Zhou Xuanji go? He chased after him. The powerhouses in front of Still Thought Temple shook their heads and left. Universe Heaven Level 10. This brat really overestimates himself. His sword is not bad. Forget it. I'll give Zhao Kanglin some face. Ha ha ha, get ready. The chaotic period of Wanshan Great Thousand is coming again. Can this Still Thought Temple belong to me? If Sage Dao Jing comes back, you will be dead. These powerhouses had been cultivating in Still Thought Temple for countless years. Sage Dao Jing had escaped deep into the void. Once Sage Dao Jing died, they would have the hope of becoming saints. So they prepared to return and rest to prepare for the upcoming period of contention for saints. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Kanglin were fighting intensely in the void. He activated the Emperor's Wei Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. The Sword Buddha was 50,000 meters tall, and 1,000 swords slashed wildly with unparalleled ferocity. Zhao Kanglin used his divine physique ability and grew to 10,000 meters tall. His body was covered with blood-patterned patterns and was enveloped by a world-destroying black qi. He swung his blood-patterned axe like a demon god. Boom! 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 Zhou Xuanji was pushed back continuously. He purposely distanced himself from Wanshan Great Thousand. He did not want others to see demon god Tianwu. It was best to keep it as a trump card to catch the enemy off guard. Chapter 529. Xiao. Xiao. Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Kanglin dashed across the starry sky one after the other, one chasing the other. Zhou Xuanji, where are you going? Zhao Kanglin said coldly. He still did not know about Zhou Xuanji's scheme. The difference in cultivation between the two of them was too great. If it was him, he would probably flee as well. Zhou Xuanji suddenly stopped, and the 1,000-hand sword Buddha dissipated into countless golden stars. He condensed 9 sword souls and took out all of his legendary swords to unleash Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. He turned and charged at Zhao Kanglin. Zhao Kanglin transformed into his original size and swung his axe wildly. Numerous chains formed from axe qi charged toward Zhou Xuanji. Ding! 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 The high-speed spinning divine sword collided with the iron chain, but it could not stop the iron chain from approaching. The 9 sword souls slashed out and cut the iron chains. Zhao Kanglin suddenly appeared beside Zhou Xuanji and swung his axe at his neck. What incredible speed! Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart. The 9 divine moons around him slammed into him. With a loud boom, Zhou Xuanji was blasted away, while Zhao Kanglin was engulfed by the powerful light. Zhou Xuanji, is this all you can do? How did you kill my son? Zhao Kanglin laughed wildly. His words were filled with killing intent. After that, he dashed out from the powerful light with extreme speed. He wanted to kill Zhou Xuanji with his axe. At this moment, an imposing figure suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xuanji. He punched forward, and Zhao Kanglin could not dodge in time. Boom! His body was almost blasted apart. His entire body was covered in blood, and he turned into a sharp arrow that disappeared into the depths of the starry sky. Demon God Tianwu. At this moment, he was no longer a dried-up corpse. The muscles on his upper body were exaggerated, and his strength was explosive. There was an iron ring around his waist, and he looked sinister and mighty. The 4 wings on his back fluttered slightly, and they were even larger than his body. His head of white hair danced wildly in the wind. Standing in front of Zhou Xuanji, his body vividly displayed the aura of a demon god. Zhou Xuanji moved his mind, and demon god Tianwu locked onto Zhao Kanglin's aura and charged toward him. Zhao Kanglin, who had steadied himself, kept coughing up blood. He murmured in fear. What was that? After being punched by demon god Tianwu, his body was on the verge of exploding and his soul was on the verge of dispersing. With a flip of his hand, he took out a golden pill and quickly threw it into his mouth. A powerful gust of wind whistled past, sweeping through everything in its path, causing the stars in its path to shake violently. The heavenly Wu demon god's sudden attack scared Zhao Kanglin so much that his facial expression changed drastically. With no time to dodge, he could only hurriedly slash forward. The blood vein axe chopped down on demon god Tianwu's right fist, but the blade of the axe was unable to cut through his flesh. How could this be? Zhao Kanglin was scared out of his wits. Then, demon god Tianwu's fist landed on him. Boom! His physical body exploded, leaving only his primordial spirit to escape. As he distanced himself from demon god Tianwu, he looked over in horror. He suddenly felt that the demon god Tianwu was somewhat familiar. Wait a minute. Wasn't this the corpse of a demon god that he had seen in the Abyss Pearl mainland? What was going on? He came back to life? Zhao Kanglin was horrified. He realized that demon god Tianwu had turned around to look at him. Those eyes were dead and empty, but they gave him a great sense of oppression. Roar! Demon god Tianwu suddenly roared at Zhao Kanglin. His voice shook the starry sky and Zhao Kanglin's primordial spirit was instantly destroyed. Connecting Heaven Stage 1 was extremely weak before the 10 demon gods. Far away, Zhou Xuanji's ears were ringing from the deafening roar. He quickly called for demon god Tianwu to return. This guy had caused such a huge commotion. He had to leave immediately to avoid unnecessary trouble. After storing demon god Tianwu into the Tianxia map, he flew toward Wanshan Great Thousand. He traveled at full speed without any delay. Soon, he realized that something was wrong. He could not find the way back to Wanshan Great Thousand. *T. Cold sweat covered Zhou Xuanji's forehead. He looked a little flustered. Could this be the terror of the void? Even someone at his cultivation stage could get lost unknowingly? After a while, he finally saw Wanshan Great Thousand. He heaved a sigh of relief. Looking from afar, Wanshan Great Thousand was covered in radiance. It was more dazzling than the sun, and it was very similar to Zhonggan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji dived into the radiance and passed through the heavenly barrier. He came to the 33rd heaven but did not see Still Thought Temple. He raised his brow slightly and charged downward. After passing through all the heavens, he saw the ground. It was night time with endless barren mountains. It seemed that he had come to another province. No wonder he did not see Still Thought Temple earlier. The 33rd heaven was vast, and Still Thought Temple faced the Center God province. Of course, before Sage Daojing left, the entire 33rd heaven belonged to him, and no one dared to offend him. Zhou Xuanji found a random place and began to recuperate his qi and blood. With his cultivation, it was not difficult for him to return to the Center God province. There were no powerful enemies in the Center God province anyway, so he was not in a hurry to return. He sat on the peak and faced the bright moon to extract heavenly law celestial energy. The ancient god sword landed beside him. The 9 souls were amazed at how powerful demon god Tianwu was. Zhou Xuanji conversed with the sword spirit. He was asking how to revive the 9 souls. The 9 souls had helped him a lot, so he had to repay them in the future. You can just split their souls. Separate their consciousness from the sword and leave their soul energy in the ancient god sword. This way, the ancient god sword will not be weakened and they can be revived, the sword spirit replied. The sword spirit replied, and Zhou Xuanji heard him. So simple? After splitting their souls, they could choose to possess another body or reincarnate. After that, he asked the 9 souls who wanted to be revived. Emperor Zhao, Saber Monarch Dong Hai, Emperor Songhai, Ghost Emperor Zhang Tian, and Lu Wuji all wanted to be revived. Emperor Hanlin, Sovereign Xian, Dao Lord Xiantian, and Demon Lord Ru Yuan fell into silence. Some of them died for special reasons and did not want to be revived for now. Zhou Xuanji thought for a while and decided to revive Lu Wuji first. He asked the sword spirit to help Lu Wuji split his soul. A while later, Lu Wuji's soul appeared before him. I can really be revived. Lu Wuji looked at his hands and mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, do you want to reincarnate or possess another body? Lu Wuji looked up at him, and the corners of his mouth curled up. There's no need for that. I've long since left behind a backup plan. Not long after I ascended, I created an avatar for him to roam the other provinces alone, just in case something like this happens again. After all these years, his cultivation might even be higher than yours. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. So cunning. If you are in danger, I will come back to help you. Take care. After saying this, Lu Wuji turned into a stream of light and flew toward the horizon. Seeing how anxious he was, Zhou Xuanji could not help but shake his head. Was this guy not afraid of encountering danger on the way? Emperor Zhao was still complaining that he wanted to be revived. Zhou Xuanji replied. Reviving them consumed a lot of energy, so he split his soul. Emperor Zhao was not dissatisfied with this and was still very excited. He finally had a chance to reappear in the human world. The next day, Zhou Xuanji sheathed his swords and set off at dawn. He was prepared to go to a nearby city and ask around to find out where he was. He planned to expose his whereabouts. After leaving the Center God province, the great Emperor Dao court would definitely come to find trouble with him. When that time came, he would settle the score with them one by one. Back then, the great Emperor Dao court and the demonic emperor had been so against him. If he did not get rid of all of them, his surname would not be Jian. Chapter 530. In the void. A silhouette appeared. It was impossible to tell who it was. He looked around and mumbled, Demon God's aura. Could it be the demon ancestor? He dares to come to the void? Shortly after, he turned into countless beams of light and flew in all directions, disappearing quickly. Not long after he left, a few silhouettes came. They were all attracted by the demon God's aura. On the other side, the demon realm. In a dark palace, the demon ancestor was cultivating. He opened his eyes suddenly. His blood-red eyes beamed coldly. Tian Wu's aura. Didn't he die? Seems like someone has taken control of his body. The demon ancestor mumbled to himself with a mocking smile. Tian Wu was stubborn back then. Even in death, he cannot rest in peace. This is retribution. After laughing for a while, he sighed. He was the only one left of the 10 demon gods. The world had changed, and the demons were no longer demons. In an inn, Zhou Xuanji sat before the window and drank. A storyteller stood at the center of the first floor, smoking a pipe and telling a story. Back then, after Di Wanshan destroyed the demon gods, he sacrificed himself to protect the ruined world. He transformed himself into the world, which created the Wanshan Great Thousand today. He left behind a bloodline called the Di clan. Countless years have passed, and the Di clan no longer exists. But now, there are many beings with the surname Di. The storyteller sighed, and the diners sighed in amazement. Although the story sounded absurd, they still yearned for Di Wanshan's story. He fought against the 10 demon gods alone and transformed himself into the world. He lived up to his name as the creation god of the Wanshan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji listened to Di Wanshan's story and shook his head. The 10 demon gods were so powerful. Could someone really fight against them and the entire demon race alone? This was how legends came about. They were constantly exaggerated, and even a pig could become a martial Tiansong. Just when he was about to leave, someone walked toward him. He glanced over and instantly laughed. His laughter was extremely cold. It was malicious Buddha. This guy was really powerful. He had only appeared in this empire for less than 10 days, and he already found him. Malicious Buddha sat opposite Zhou Xuanji and poured himself some wine. Long time no see, he said with a smile. His smile was also very cold, giving people the feeling of a venomous snake. Where's the demonic emperor? Before I ascended, I thought he was very strong. Who would have thought that he still hasn't appeared? Zhou Xuanji asked. In his eyes, malicious Buddha was already a dead person. He had to avenge Han Shuzi, Tai Chu Yudao, and the divine cliff. Malicious Buddha sighed and said, I also want to know. Ever since you escaped, that guy also disappeared. Zhou Xuanji continued to ask, what about Xian Daoya? I'm going to choose a genius like you. Then why are you looking for me? Of course it's to capture you. Of course if you and I can bury the hatchet, we can also be friends. The two of them exchanged questions and answers, which made Zhou Xuanji laugh again. He picked up the wine pot and said, after drinking this pot of wine, let's find a place to fight to the death. Malicious Buddha nodded. He did not know about Zhao Kenglin challenging Zhou Xuanji. After all, this place was far away from the Center God Province. Universe Heaven Level 10. This brat's growth rate was too terrifying. He had to be eliminated. The malicious Buddha thought as he drank. The genius he chose was no longer a match for Zhou Xuanji. He had miscalculated and wasted so much effort. After that, the two of them remained silent. They drank slowly and leisurely. After they finished drinking, the two left one after another. Malicious Buddha walked in front, and Zhou Xuanji followed closely behind. On the street, the two of them disappeared into thin air. They flew swiftly and left the empire, coming to an uninhabited wasteland. Malicious Buddha turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and laughed coldly. Your cultivation has already soared to Universe Heaven Level 10. That's not easy. But do you know how high my cultivation is? Murderous intent locked onto Zhou Xuanji from all directions. How many levels? Zhou Xuanji asked calmly. Malicious Buddha was powerful indeed. The sense of danger he felt was similar to Zhao Kanglin's. How many levels? What a joke. I've already surpassed Universe Heaven and reached Connecting Heaven Level 2. Do you know about Connecting Heaven? Malicious Buddha laughed viciously. As he spoke, he walked toward Zhou Xuanji. This brat must die. Connecting Heaven Level 2? So what? Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly. Seeing how arrogant Malicious Buddha was, he felt great in his heart. Continue acting. You are going to kneel soon. Malicious Buddha took out a golden whip with lightning intertwining on it. Even at this point, you are still pretending to be calm. Do you think the heavenly saint will protect you? He has already left Wanshan Great Thousand, and your senior and junior brothers are not nearby. I'm very sensitive to auras. Although he said so, he was still a little cautious. With Zhou Xuanji's talent and arrogance, it was not luck that he could survive until now. This brat always hid his trump card to deal a fatal blow to his enemies. Zhou Xuanji smiled with extreme disdain. He brought demon god Tianwu out from the Tianxia map straight away. The horrifying demon god's body rippled the space around it. Seeing demon god Tianwu, Malicious Buddha's expression changed. Today, I will make you pay with your blood, Zhou Xuanji said coldly. Zhou Xuanji said coldly. Before the Malicious Buddha could speak, demon god Tianwu quickly rushed out. Boom! Malicious Buddha's eyes flashed, and demon god Tianwu was right in front of him. He quickly activated his divine ability, and a golden bell shadow came out from his body. Demon god Tianwu did not use any fancy divine abilities. It was just a punch. Clang! The golden bell shattered, and Malicious Buddha fell as he vomited blood from the punch. His body was like a meteorite that pierced through the ground, causing the ground within a radius of 10,000 miles to crumble. Demon god Tianwu fell as well, and its feet stepped into the ruins. He reached down and scooped up Malicious Buddha. The entire process happened so quickly that ordinary people could not even blink. Malicious Buddha struggled with all his might and cried out in shock. Demon god Tianwu! How can it be? How can you have his corpse and even turned him into a clone? In the next second, demon god Tianwu squeezed his body until it exploded. How horrifying was the power of a body that was invincible below the heavenly saint. Even Connecting Heaven Stage 2 could not withstand it. Demon god Tianwu continued to use his magic energy to crush Malicious Buddha's soul. The battle ended just as quickly as it came. Zhou Xuanji recalled demon god Tianwu and left quickly. Killing the Malicious Buddha made him very happy. So satisfying. Demon god Tianwu's power made his blood boil. He became even more determined. He was going to walk the path of an overlord saint. One day, he would reach the height of killing a heavenly saint with one slash. Not long after he left, Xian Daoya suddenly appeared in the ruins. He frowned and mumbled, Malicious Buddha's aura, and Zhou Xuanji. Who's the other aura? So horrifying. He immediately tracked Zhou Xuanji's aura with his mind. 6 hours later. Zhou Xuanji stopped to rest under an old tree. He had already sensed Xian Daoya's aura, but he pretended to be in a bad state. Xian Daoya came out from the ground and looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated expression. Why did you leave the Center God province? Don't you know that you are in danger? Zhou Xuanji pretended to be moved. He frowned and said with gritted teeth, Why are you here? Are you following the malicious Buddha? Chapter 531. The sky was high and wide, and the cold wind was rustling. Xian Daoya looked at Zhou Xuanji, who was under the old tree, and replied calmly, That's right. Because of him, I lost you, so I want to take revenge. Tell me, where is he? Zhou Xuanji's expression flickered as he said, He's dead. The person who killed him was very powerful, and even I can't see his face clearly. It should be a demonic cultivator. That demonic qi was too powerful, and it was definitely the most powerful demonic cultivator I've seen in my life. The reason he was acting with Xian Daoya was because he wanted to obtain information about the great Emperor Dao court. Xian Daoya frowned. After some thought, he walked toward Zhou Xuanji. Put on a show until the end. Zhou Xuanji took out the 9-moon execution sword and prepared to fight. Xian Daoya said faintly, In actuality, you really don't have to face me like this. If I wanted to kill you, you would have died long ago. Come with me and join the great Emperor Dao court. Even though you disobeyed the great Emperor Dao court, your talent can make up for it. Universe Heaven Level 10. This kid was really surprising. After Xian Daoya saw through Zhou Xuanji's cultivation, he felt even more complicated. Zhou Xuanji asked in a low voice, If I don't join, do I have to die? His forehead was covered in cold sweat, as if he had just experienced a great battle. In reality, it was all an act. Xian Daoya nodded and said, The great Emperor Dao court has already given a death order, and I was punished because of it. Trust me, offending the great Emperor Dao court will not end well, and joining them will instead bring you great fortuitous opportunities. With Sage Dao Jing gone, the battle for the divine throne will most likely start again. Only by joining the great Emperor Dao court will you be able to quickly grow. He tried his best to persuade Zhou Xuanji, as if he was really thinking for Zhou Xuanji. In fact, both sides were acting. Zhou Xuanji let out a long sigh and asked, How powerful is the great Emperor Dao court's most powerful being? Xian Daoya stopped 5 meters in front of him and said, He's very strong, but I don't know exactly how strong he is. Anyway, he has a great background. If I say his name, all the great 1,000 worlds will be shocked. Zhou Xuanji frowned. He could shake the great 1,000 world just by saying his name? It seemed that he had underestimated the great Emperor Dao court. Seeing that he was still hesitating, Xian Daoya continued, The demonic emperor has possessed the corpse of one of the 10 ancient demonic gods. Soon, he will descend upon the Wanshan Great 1,000. At that time, with his personality, he will definitely massacre the Wanshan Great 1,000. And you, he has his eyes on you. The 10 great demon gods. Zhou Xuanji's heart beat wildly, and he immediately felt the pressure. He had already experienced the might of a fiend celestial. However, his demon god Tianwu was just an unconscious clone. Against the demonic emperor who had possessed the body of a demon god, there was definitely a huge difference in strength. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, Sorry, I still don't want to join the great Emperor Dao court. Please leave. With your current strength, you can't invite me. Xian Daoya was only a soul, and Bai Hao Isin had said that he was very weak. However, when facing the malicious Buddha, this fellow could still hold him back for a period of time. His combat power was unpredictable. Zhou Xuanji wanted to test his power. He activated the power of the divine moon and pointed his sword at Xian Daoya. Xian Daoya was not surprised. With his understanding of Zhou Xuanji, it would be strange if this brat obeyed. He sighed. Actually, I don't want to attack you. Since you are so stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Zhou Xuanji laughed condescendingly. Old thing, the price of being impolite was death. Seeing his smile, Xian Daoya felt uneasy. Boom! At this moment, the ground shook violently. The wasteland cracked, revealing numerous bottomless canyons, as though a massive earthquake was happening. Xiandaoya's expression changed slightly. Oh no! A connecting heaven cultivator is attacking. After that, he turned into a puff of dust and dissipated. Zhou Xuanji used the 8-step sword lunge and quickly escaped from this place. Although he had already killed 2 connecting heaven cultivators, it was because of demon god Tianwu. Moreover, connecting heaven was divided into 10 stages. Only God knew which stage his opponent was at. Zhou Xuanji traveled ahead at full speed, crossing over mountains and ridges. Half an hour later, he stopped in a forest and said slowly, "Who are you? Why are you not coming out?" The other party had been chasing him relentlessly. He could have caught him, but he did not do so. It was as though he was toying with him, playing a game of cat and mouse. A breeze blew, and the leaves under a tree rose. Next, a tall figure appeared. A great demon. He had a head of green hair, and his body was covered in tiny scales like a snake. He wore black armor, and his eyes were pitch black. His pupils were red, and they were as small as 2 red beans. The lower half of his body was surrounded by a black demonic qi, and there were faint roars of ferocious beasts. He stared at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "You are Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji?" Zhou Xuanji stared at him and asked back, "You already have the answer in your heart. Why do you ask?" Xiandaoya suddenly appeared on the tree behind Zhou Xuanji. "Snake Lord Qingshi," he said with gritted teeth with a dark expression, "your demon race wants to snatch someone from the great Emperor Dao court?" Snake Lord Qingshi. Zhou Xuanji squinted his eyes. The person ranked 5th on the great Emperor Steel. Ever since he learned about connecting heaven, why did he encounter connecting heaven cultivators one after another? Snake Lord Qingshi said coldly, "The great Emperor Dao court is merely a scoundrel. How dare you threaten the demon race? Xiandaoya, if you don't get lost, I will eat your soul." Xiandaoya was enraged, but he could sense that Snake Lord Qingshi was serious. After some hesitation, he chose to leave and disappeared from the tree. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. "You are such a coward, and you still want to show off?" Snake Lord Qingshi looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Sword Emperor, come with me. If I had ill intentions, I would have done it long ago." Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown, "May I ask why you are looking for me?" "To deal with the demonic emperor," Snake Lord Qingshi replied. Zhou Xuanji heard him and agreed immediately. "The enemy of my enemy is my ally." If Snake Lord Qingshi really wanted to harm him, he still needed demon god Tianwu. Even if he was on the brink of death, he could still use the celestial devil rebirth technique. Snake Lord Qingshi slammed the ground with his palm, and a gate covered in snake scales rose up. The gate was glowing with a green radiance. Zhou Xuanji did not hesitate and stepped into the gate. Snake Lord Qingshi followed closely behind. The snake-scaled gate sunk into the soil as though it was never there. In the vast starry sky, a small island was levitating. There was only one crystal tree on the island, and a man was sitting under the tree. This man looked mighty and domineering. He wore silver armor and a handsome face. He wore a qilin crown on his head. Even though he was sitting, he gave off a powerful aura. Old ancestor Hongshi's illusory image appeared before him suddenly. Duyushan, the Abyss Pearl mainland no longer exists. The world that destroyed the Abyss Pearl mainland was located in the center god province of Wanshan Great Thousand. Sage Dao Jing has left, and Wanshan Great Thousand is about to usher in a chaotic period of fighting to become a saint. Hearing old ancestor Hongshi, Duyushan opened his eyes. There was a war between the 2 worlds? He asked with a frown. Old ancestor Hongshi snorted. "It's not important anymore. I'm asking you if you want to go or not. If you don't, I will give the mission to Si Mengyan." Duyushan heard him and got up slowly. "I will go now," he said. Chapter 532. After passing through the snake-scaled door, Zhou Xuanji's vision blurred. When he opened his eyes again, he was in a forest. The trees around him were very tall, and even the flowers and grass were taller than him. He felt as if he had come to a country of giants. "Follow me." After that, he walked in front of Zhou Xuanji and led the way. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Where is this? Who are we going to meet?" He could feel the demonic aura all around him, varying in strength. "This is the demon realm. I will bring you to the Demon Emperor to discuss the plan to deal with the demonic emperor. Snake Lord Qingshe replied calmly. There was no hint of coercion in his tone. When he mentioned the demonic emperor and the demonic emperor, his expression did not change. It was as though he was talking about two insignificant people. Demon Emperor? Zhou Xuanji was suddenly interested. He had been to the demon realm, and now he had come to the beast realm. He was very curious. Were the demon realm and the demon realm counted as the boundless world? Or were they part of the boundless world? Along the way, he saw many demons. Some were in human form and some were not. When they saw Snake Lord Qingshe, they all prostrated themselves on the ground and bowed. After passing through the forest, Snake Lord Qingshe flew into the distance, and Zhou Xuanji followed closely behind him. After some time, they arrived in front of an enormous palace. This palace was dazzling with gold and jade, and the gate was 100 zhang tall. There were 2 black chelants lying on the ground, and even though they were lying on the ground, they were still taller than the palace gate. Their eyes were filled with an oppressive feeling. The door suddenly opened, and Zhou Xuanji followed Snake Lord Qingshe in. A violent gale blew from within the palace, and Zhou Xuanji's black hair danced wildly in the wind. He narrowed his eyes and saw a figure looking at him from the depths of the palace. Demon Emperor. He sat on the high platform, wearing a dark purple imperial robe. His red hair was coiled under the black crown of the flood dragon, and 2 strands of red hair fell down his cheeks. His handsome face was indifferent, and his eyes flickered with evil light. There was a large painting hanging on the wall behind him. On the painting, there was a chelan-like demon stepping on a phoenix and a golden dragon, with a vermilion bird in its mouth. It looked ferocious, and the painting exuded a boundless aura. Other than the Demon Emperor, there was no one else in the hall. Zhou Xuanji and Snake Lord Qingshe came up to the platform. Snake Lord Qingshe cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, Zhou Xuanji has arrived. He encountered Great Emperor Dao Court's Xian Daoya on the way, and I have forced him to retreat." The Beast Emperor nodded calmly. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "The Snake Lord should have told you why I invited you here. Do you want to know why we chose you?" Zhou Xuanji nodded and stared at the Beast Emperor. The Demon Emperor said, "You are from the northern wilderness, which means that you are the descendant of the demonic emperor. You are the strongest person in the northern wilderness region in the past 10,000 years. The demonic emperor can only control people from the northern wilderness who are less than 10,000 years old. With your talent, the demonic emperor must be crazy to obtain you. How much do you know about the demonic emperor?" Zhou Xuanji frowned. Speaking of which, he did not know much about the demonic emperor. They only knew that he was evil and came from the northern wilderness region. He did not understand the demonic emperor. Logically speaking, the demonic emperor should be Lu Wuji's junior, and he was younger than Mo Jiuqing. How could he strike fear into the hearts of people in the Wanshan Great Thousand? The demonic emperor's original body came from the first being when the heavenly law first appeared. He failed in the struggle to become a saint and fell in the cycle of reincarnation. After countless years, he finally awakened in the northern wilderness region. He became even more ruthless than before, and in order to become a saint, he decided to sacrifice all lives and walk the path of an overlord saint. He has already obtained demon god Jinkuan's corpse and has the most powerful physique below the heavenly saints. He will soon return to the Wanshan Great Thousand. Our beast realm is a vassal of the Wanshan Great Thousand, and if the Wanshan Great Thousand is destroyed, the beast realm will cease to exist. We believe that the demonic emperor will come to find you. We will give you a treasure to use when he comes to find you." The beast emperor looked at Zhou Xuanji and spoke slowly. Zhou Xuanji asked, "What does the demonic emperor want to do with me?" The beast emperor replied, "He will turn you into his slave and have you fight for him in all worlds." He looked at Zhou Xuanji and felt that there was something off about this boy. His eyes widened and his breathing became ragged as he said, "You fused with the violet demon monarch heart? Isn't that supreme treasure on Wuwang? Wait, could it be that the violet demon monarch heart has already been split? Very good. This fellow dares to hide it from us." Towards the end, a murderous look appeared in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's your relationship with Great Emperor Wuwang? This fellow couldn't be thinking of stealing his heart, right? Great Emperor Wuwang was our subordinate. Without our support, he would have died long ago. He promised that if he split a new violet demon monarch heart, he would definitely give it to us. The Beast Emperor's gaze became colder and colder. It was evident that he was truly angry. He looked at Xueqi and said, "Don't worry. Since the violet demon monarch heart is already yours, we will not take it by force. This enmity is a private matter between we and Wu Wang." Xueqi was a bit doubtful. What if this fellow wanted to take it after defeating the demonic emperor? The Beast Emperor raised his right hand, and a red orb appeared in his palm. There was a ball of intense flames within the orb, and it seemed to contain boundless might. This orb is called the evil-slaying soul orb. When the demonic emperor controls you, he will sacrifice his soul into your body. When the time comes, you can use this orb to heavily injure his soul. When we sense the ripples from the evil-slaying soul orb, we will immediately come to support you and kill the demonic emperor, the Beast Emperor said with a powerful voice. After that, he tossed the evil-slaying soul orb to Xueqi. After catching the orb, Xueqi asked hesitantly, "Is it really that easy?" If it was so easy, how could the demonic emperor have lived to this day? The Beast Emperor replied, "This orb only appears once every 1,000,000 years. Using it will heavily injure the user's soul, and those with weak cultivation cannot use it. Out of the northern wilderness people that the demonic emperor found, only you have the right to use it. If it was our subordinate, the demonic emperor would definitely not fall for it. We promise that after this, we will help you nurture your soul and help you become stronger. You can choose any divine ability in the beast realm." Xueqi almost cussed it out. As expected, nothing good came out of it. "Trying to trick me?" He narrowed his eyes and said, "Looks like I don't have a choice." The Beast Emperor sighed and said, "There's no other way. It's too difficult to defeat the demonic emperor, so we can only rely on you. This is a meritorious deed to save the world. I hope you can trust us." Xueqi gave a slight smile and said, "Then I'll accept it. Can you help me become stronger first?" The Beast Emperor said, "Of course. Snake Lord, take him to settle down first. We will think of a way to help him become stronger." Snake Lord Qingshi nodded. From the beginning to the end, his expression did not change much. Following this, he brought Xueqi and left the palace. The man and the demon walked on without saying anything. In the end, Xueqi stayed in a building. After Snake Lord Qingshi left, Xueqi took out the ancient god sword and asked about the evil-slaying soul orb. "It's not just heavily injured. It's possible that he'll turn into dust." Sovereign Xian coldly harumphed and said, "As expected, this Beast Emperor is as insidious and cunning as ever. The reason why the beast race is where it is today is because of his insidiousness that he made so many enemies." Beast Lord Ruyuan said, "Let me out. I have enmity with the Beast Emperor to settle. I'll take possession of a body in the beast realm and hide here, waiting for an opportunity to kill him. In the future, as the Lord of the Beast race, I'll definitely help you." Chapter 533. In response to Demon Lord Ruyuan's request, Xueqi asked, "You can possess a Beast Emperor right under his nose?" He was not afraid of the higher being's soul attacking him in the future, as the ancient god sword still contained the higher being's soul. He could have the sword spirit destroy the soul within the sword and heavily injure it before killing it with a single strike. As long as he didn't say anything, the souls of the powerful beings would never know about this. Since I dared to make this request, I naturally have confidence. "Don't worry," Demon Lord Ruyuan said confidently. He was not the most talkative of the 9 souls. He was only slightly more talkative than Venerable Xian and Dao Lord Shen. Xueqi immediately asked the sword spirit to split his soul. He didn't have a good impression of the demon the Arch. This person looked dignified, but he was actually full of evil tricks. Since Demon Lord Ruyuan wanted to deal with the demon the Arch, he would fulfill his wish. Not long after, Demon Lord Ruyuan's soul appeared before him, and he cupped his fists. "I will never forget this favor. I hereby swear that I will never be your enemy." After saying this, Demon Lord Ruyuan disappeared as a streak of light. Xueqi smiled and closed his eyes to cultivate. There were too many experts in the demon realm. Even with demon god Tianwu, it would not be easy for him to force his way out. He might as well wait here. Let's see what the demon the Arch is going to do. It would be best if he could really give us a fortuitous encounter. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Snake Lord Qingshi did not come, and neither did the Yao Emperor. Although Zhou Xuanji suspected that something was amiss, he was not too worried. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 250 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Heaven's Essence, Heaven's Punishment Sword, Heavenly Sword Descent. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. Universe Essence Legendary Sword. Ordinary ore, iron, bronze, silver, gold, amethyst, glorious gold, heavenly soul, intimidating spirit, celestial shaking, god slaying, apocalypse, ancient gazing, disaster releasing, universe essence, overturning heaven, heavenly piercing, 9 extremities, chaos. The fact that Qian Yuan possessed a power that surpassed disaster releasing was just in time. However, could it be related to his birthday that he could draw the universe divine sword? Idiot. He shook his head and smiled. Information about the sky punishing sword appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Heaven Punishing Sword Level. Heaven, description. A sword forged from the Heaven Punishment Stone. It has the tyrannical power to split the 5 elements and reverse yin and yang. To use this sword, one must be at least at Universe Heaven Level 7. He immediately took out the Heaven Punishing Sword. The center of the sword was silver, and the blade was blood red, as if it had just experienced a massacre. The hilt of the sword was exquisite. It looked like it was formed by 2 palms side by side, and it gave off a baleful aura. With this sword in hand, Zhou Xuanji felt an inexplicable murderous intent. Good sword. He is worthy of the name Xing Tian. Zhou Xuanji praised. The domineering power contained within the sky-judging sword made him feel as if he had entered the divine moon mode. In the Abyss Pearl mainland, when he used the mystic moon state, he was invincible. Was this feeling coming again? Then, he began to inherit the falling heavenly sword. This was a sword Dao divine ability that could condense a heavenly sword that would descend from the sky and catch the enemy off guard. In order to use this divine ability, one had to lock onto the enemy's aura. This way, the heavenly sword would chase after the enemy until the heavenly sword dissipated. The lethality of the heavenly sword was comparable to World Suppressor, which made him very satisfied. This 250th birthday was quite a pleasant surprise. 3 days later, the demon the Arch finally came knocking. Seeing him, Zhou Xuanji sat on the bed and said with a smile, "I thought you forgot about me." The demon the Arch did not feel awkward and said seriously, "We went to find a supreme treasure for you and finally found it." He took out a palm-sized lotus seat that looked like it was made of green jade. This is the 24-rank deep black lotus. It has great defense and can seal enemies. The demon the Arch threw the lotus seat to Zhou Xuanji before leaving these words. "After you make it recognize you as its owner, we will send Snake Lord Qingshi to send you back. If you stay in the demon realm for too long, you might miss the demonic emperor." Zhou Xuanji played with the 24-rank deep black lotus and wanted to see how powerful it was. He scanned it with his divine sense and was shocked to find that there was an independent world hidden in the 24-rank deep black lotus. It was a beautiful place with no living creatures. "If I let Emperor Sword Court live here?" His eyes brightened and his heart skipped a beat. This was a good idea. From now on, he would not be separated from his family and could nurture Emperor Sword Court at any time. However, he had to be careful if the demon the Arch left any traps behind. After making sure that the demon Thearcha's aura was not there, he took out the ancient god sword and asked about the 24-rank deep black lotus. Sovereign Xian was the first to speak. He has invested a lot. The 24-rank deep black lotus originally had 36 ranks, and 12 ranks had disappeared due to the battle between the powerful beings. He could not have done anything to the lotus because it is formed from the fate of heaven and earth. Any power or will that does not belong to its owner will be destroyed upon entering it. As long as you make the 24-rank deep black lotus recognize you as its owner, he will not be able to take it from you unless you die. Zhou Xuanji heard him and felt relieved. He forced out his essence blood and dripped it into the 24-rank deep black lotus. In an instant, his consciousness came to the world within the lotus. He stood on a tall mountain and looked down at the mountains and lakes. The majestic scenery was like a painting, epic and grand. He was pleasantly surprised to find that the spiritual qi here was very dense, not inferior to the center god province. With a thought, Every corner of this world was reflected in his eyes. It was very suitable for survival. In the outside world, Xueqi opened his eyes and smiled as he mumbled, "This is a great gift indeed." He did not thank the demon the arch. The more the demon the arch acted like this, the more it meant that in his heart, Xueqi was dead for sure. Once he died, the 24-rank deep black lotus would become ownerless again. It did not take him too long to make the 24-rank deep black lotus recognize him as its owner. His constitution was powerful, and his essence blood was much more tenacious than those at the same cultivation level. He would not be devoured by the 24-rank deep black lotus. He got up, picked up the ancient god sword, and walked out of the building. Snake Lord Qingshi was already waiting by the railing. Seeing him walk out, he asked in surprise, "So fast?" Xueqi smiled and said, "Send me back." This trip was not a waste. He had obtained the evil-slaying soul bead and the 24-rank deep black lotus. As for the agreement with the demon the arch, he threw it to the back of his mind. He had to kill the demonic emperor, but he would not use the evil-slaying soul bead to do so. Snake Lord Qingshi nodded and left with Xueqi. The demonic realm. Xian Xianghua was cultivating in the center of the lake. Ripples continuously appeared on the lake's surface, but they did not make too much noise. A silhouette appeared above her head. It was a white-haired old man. Demonic qi surrounded his body, and his black robes fluttered in the wind. He looked down at Xian Xianghua and said, "The demonic ancestor has ordered for all void extreme immortals to gather at the enchanting palace." Xian Xianghua opened her eyes and asked, "Can you tell me what it is?" The white-haired old man gloomily sighed and said, "Contending to become a saint is incredibly dangerous. You must be careful and do not act alone." Contending to become a saint. Xian Xianghua's gaze became serious and she asked softly, "A heavenly saint has fallen?" The white-haired old man shook his head and said, "Sage Daojing left and gave up his position as a saint. Now, the various worlds of the Wanshan Great Thousand have become restless and are preparing to search for heavenly law violet qi." Chapter 534. Heavenly Law Violet Qi. Xian Xianghua sank into deep thought. The white-haired elder had told her many things about the heavenly saints, so she understood how dangerous this matter was. Every time there was a fight to become a saint, a great thousand world would be affected. No one could avoid it. What about the whereabouts of the heavenly law violet qi? Who didn't want to become a saint? The white-haired elder shook his head and said, "Even the demonic ancestor doesn't know of such an existence. We shouldn't dream about it. It must be those undying existences who are fighting for it. What we need to do is to kill enemies for the demonic ancestor and collect information." Xian Xianghua felt that it made sense. The two of them immediately headed in the same direction. After returning from the beast realm, Xueqi flew towards the center god province. He didn't fly too fast and waited for Xian Daoya to appear again. This time, he planned to destroy Xian Daoya. As for the great Emperor Dao Court, he would deal with it later. Unfortunately, Xian Daoya did not appear again. 3 months later, he returned to the Divine Cliff unscathed. After returning to the Divine Cliff, he brought Jiang Shui, Zhou Shaoxian, and the others back to Skyfall. Xueqi gathered the higher-ups of Emperor Sword Court and told them about the independent world within the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus. Northern Sword Valiant said excitedly, "That's great. This way, we can always follow Master." Zhao Congjian's eyes lit up. If so, he would have plenty of time to learn the way of the sword from Xueqi. Zhou Shaoxian said excitedly, "Then let's move Skyfall in." Han Shenbua, Xiao Jinghong, Huang Lianxin, Fenyu Dragon King, and the others spoke up. All of them expressed their agreement. Now, Xueqi already had the qualifications to become the most powerful cultivator in the Center God Province. Following him was naturally safe. Only by following Xueqi could he quickly become more powerful. Xueqi knocked on the armrest and said, "I have to consider every member of Emperor Sword Court. From today onwards, Emperor Sword Court will no longer take in disciples. Every disciple can bring their loved ones here. 1 year later, I will personally move the mountain." The independent world of the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus was huge, even bigger than the Northern Wilderness region. However, he did not want to take in all the living beings in the Northern Wilderness region. There were no benefits to speak of. He did not owe the northern wilderness region anything. Everyone immediately got to work. Xueqi headed overseas to find the Violet Demon Palace. He waved his right hand and moved the Violet Demon Palace into the 24-rank deep black lotus. Once the Violet Demon Palace disappeared, the seawater rushed into the black hole below. Rumble, the ocean surged, and a terrifying aura emerged from the black hole. Xueqi saw a pair of blood-red eyes. Dark North Royal Tao, an ancient evil being of the northern wilderness region. He raised his right hand and made a grabbing motion. A ball of black gas flew in front of him, and an angry roar came from it. "It's you! How could you be so strong? How long has it been?" Dark North Monarch Tao was quite terrified. Back when Xueqi had first come to the Violet Demon Palace, it had noticed this. How much time had passed? Xueqi replied calmly, "From now on, work for me or die." The Dark North Royal Tao Tai actually had the cultivation of an 8 tribulation scattered immortal. No wonder it was suppressed and sealed. Once it came out, it would slaughter the entire northern wilderness region, and no one would be able to stop it. When Lu Wuji ascended, he was only a 7 tribulation bodiless immortal. The Dark North Royal Tao was silent, not daring to resist. Xueqi was far more powerful than him, and he felt that this fellow could kill him with a single thought. Just like that, Xueqi also subdued Dark North Monarch Tao. This fellow only had a soul left, and it would take a long time to form a body. Xueqi put it into the 24-rank deep black lotus and marked out a forest for it to live in. At the same time, he set up a magic formation so that it could not leave this forest. After doing all of this, he returned to the divine cliff and continued to teach Zhou Shaoxian. As Sage Dao Jing left, he could sense that the atmosphere in the Wanshan Great Thousand was becoming more and more severe, and there was an austere aura in the wind. At the border of the Center God Province, the boundless wasteland suddenly shook. The soil was flipped over, and the ground cracked as a massive stone door rose up. At the top of the stone door was a demon that looked savage and terrifying, as if it was going to devour the world. The stone door gave off a powerful light, and following this, countless demons flew out from the door. The Demon Army. The mighty army of evil devils marched forward without the slightest scruple. Xian Xianghua was also within the demon army. She looked around, and even though the sky had become dark because of the demonic qi, she still felt a sense of familiarity. Center God Province. She immediately thought of Xueqi. She wondered how that boy was doing. She really wanted to see him. Her eyes were cold. She did not leave the army but moved forward with it. Numerous demonic dragons that were tens of thousands of meters long flew out from the stone door. Their scales were sharp and looked like sinister armors. Flames burned on their backs, and a scorching aura came out of their mouths. Center God Province, we demons are back. A chilling laughter came from the stone door, shaking the heavens and earth. At the same time, on another land far away, stone doors rose up as well, and countless demons charged out. The beast realm also sent an army. Not only that, there were other races. The barbarian race, shaman race, flame ghost race, earth nether race, and so on. The Wanshan Great Thousand was in chaos. In the Cliff Lord Palace, Yang Yutian sat on the main seat, and the elders and core disciples of the Divine Cliff stood before him. Xueqi was among them. Hearing Yang Yutian's words, he frowned deeply. The various races invaded the Wanshan Great Thousand and were ready to fight for the heavenly law Violet Qi. Although contending to become a saint is still far away from us, we cannot avoid this disaster. We must be prepared for it. From today onwards, all disciples are not allowed to go out casually. At the same time, we will take turns to guard the various checkpoints outside the Divine Cliff. Yang Yutian said with a deep voice. His forehead was covered in sweat. Ever since he became the Cliff Lord, all sorts of disasters came one after another. Now that it involved the entire Great Thousand World, he felt immense pressure. He did not want the Divine Cliff to be destroyed in his hands. This thought became his greatest pressure. Wu Qiu asked with a frown, "The immortal gods are not going to do anything about this?" Yang Yutian sighed, "The God Palace's greatest support is the Heavenly Saint, but the Heavenly Saint is already." He didn't say much after that. Everyone understood what he wanted to say. Without the Heavenly Saint, the God Palace would crumble, and only the ancient immortal clan would remain. The ancient immortal clan did not have the power to rule the great thousand world alone. Yang Yutian made some arrangements before asking everyone to leave, leaving only Zhou Xuanji to talk. He walked up to Zhou Xuanji and sighed. "Brother Zhou, we can only rely on you for this disaster." Zhou Xuanji knitted his brows tightly. He was furious in his heart. Damn. Sage Dao Jing gave him the heavenly law violet qi. This was a trap. With his cultivation, how long would it take for him to use the heavenly law violet qi to become a saint? During this period of time, someone must have divined the existence of the heavenly law violet qi. The more he thought about it, the more shocked he became. He hesitated if he should hand over the heavenly law violet qi. "I will do my best," Zhou Xuanji said seriously, and Yang Yutian smiled immediately. After that, Zhou Xuanji returned to his residence and told Jiang Shui about this. Jiang Shui did not ask Zhou Xuanji to hand over the heavenly law violet qi immediately. She said, "If you hand it over and your enemy obtains it." Chapter 535. Zhou Xuanji felt that what Jiang Shui said made sense. He had many enemies, especially the great Emperor Dao Court and the demonic emperor. If one of them became a saint, wouldn't he be dead for sure? With the Heaven's Path violet aura in his hands, he could at least ensure that his enemies would not be able to become sages. Jiang Shui held his hand and comforted him. "Up to this point, we have seen all kinds of storms and waves. You don't have to worry too much. Fight when you need to. If we really face death, we will die together." Handing over the heavenly law violet qi did not mean that Zhou Xuanji had no enemies. Rather than worrying, it was better to seize this opportunity. Zhou Xuanji stroked her hair and smiled as he said, "With your words, I can't die. I will definitely become a saint and protect you." With that, he pulled her into his arms. There was only the two of them in the room, and the two of them began to be intimate. The two of them did not tell anyone else about the heavenly Dao violet qi, not even Zhou Shaoxian and the 9 mighty being souls. 6 hours later, Zhou Xuanji left the house and continued to teach Zhou Shaoxian in the forest. In less than half a month, a war broke out at the border of the Center God province. The news of the demon race's invasion spread like wildfire in the Center God province. Giant God Huang Hao led 1 million immortal soldiers to provide reinforcements, but it was said that a demon blocked Giant God Huang Hao's path, and the 1 million immortal soldiers all died. The Center God province started to panic. Zhou Xuanji really wanted to go to the front lines to resist the demon race. He could use the World Buddha art to quickly become stronger. However, before he left, he had to wait for the Emperor Sword Court to be ready before he moved it into the 24-stage Deep Black Lotus. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to one's wishes. Mo Jiuqing suddenly came to find him. The two of them reunited in the woods with Zhou Shaoxian standing beside them. Master went to find Su Qing and was heavily injured by him. Now, he and Su Qing have been captured by the demon ancestor and imprisoned in the Demon God Hall. That is the center of the demon race's power in the Great Thousand World. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji frowned. No wonder there was no news about the old beggar. He asked, "You want to pull me along to save him?" Although Mo Jiuqing was no longer the same as before, he was still far inferior to the demon ancestor. Mo Jiuqing's strength had not reached the Ascension Heaven realm, so how could he fight the demon ancestor? "All of us have contacted each other and will head to the demonic shrine. I'm here to inform you. Of course you can choose not to go," Mo Jiuqing said as he looked into Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Even though the old beggar did not recognize him, he still had a very high position in his heart. Zhou Xiaoshuan's eyes lit up. "Demons? Father, didn't you say that Aunt Xian is in the demon race? Bring me along. I also want to participate in the war." Zhou Xuanji glared at her before saying to Mo Jiuqing, "Give me the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, I'll give some instructions." Then, he left with Zhou Shaoxian. He told Jiang Shui about this matter, and she did not stop him. How could she not help him when he was in danger? Apart from that, he also informed Yang Yutian. Hearing that Zhou Xuanji was going to resist the demon race, Yang Yutian felt very nervous. However, no matter how he tried to persuade him, Zhou Xuanji was determined to go. Jiang Shui and her daughter were still at the Divine Cliff, which meant that Zhou Xuanji had not abandoned the Divine Cliff. Yang Yutian could not stop him. Just like that, Zhou Xuanji followed Mo Jiuqing to the demon god palace. Mo Jiuqing condensed a black cloud, and the two of them rode it forward at an extremely fast speed. Do you want to become a saint? Zhou Xuanji asked with a mocking expression. Once upon a time, Mo Jiuqing was almost invincible in his eyes. It turned out that this fellow's cultivation was only Universe Heaven level 10. This meant that Divine Lord Ji was not very powerful. They were still a large stage away from the peak existences of the Wanshan Great Thousand. Mo Jiuqing shook his head and said, if I want to become a saint, I have to live for at least 10 million years, or even longer. I'm still too young. He glanced at Zhou Xuanji and said meaningfully, you have some hope. Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows and asked, I'm only 200 years old. Are you sure? Could this fellow have noticed something? Mo Jiuqing said with a smile that did not seem like a smile, that's right. You're only 200 years old, but you've already caught up to me. He felt a bit lonely in his heart. No wonder the old beggar would take Zhou Xuanji as a disciple. The old beggar had a standard for taking in disciples, which was that the new disciple had to be more talented than the old disciple. Otherwise, he would not take in a disciple. Who is the most powerful among our senior apprentice brothers? Can he compare to the demonic ancestor? Zhou Xuanji asked, his tone filled with anticipation. To him, the demonic ancestor must be someone at connecting heaven level 10 and was only one step away from becoming a saint. Mo Jiuqing said, I have not personally witnessed the power of all the senior apprentice brothers, but I am sure of one thing. The demonic ancestor is of the same generation as our revered teacher. Our revered teacher mentioned a few people that we must not offend, and one of them is the demonic ancestor. Zhou Xuanji was astonished. He did not expect the old beggar to have such a powerful background. The same generation as the 10 demon gods? It seemed like he was one of the first living beings after the world was created. No wonder he could nurture so many monstrous disciples. Back to the topic. If you were born a few 100,000 years earlier, you might have been able to become a saint. But now, a pity. Mo Jiuqing shook his head and sighed. How many eras does it take for a heavenly saint position to be vacated? We might never be able to wait for the next saint position. The heavenly law had 9 as its limit. The 9 saints could not die under the heavenly law, unless they gave up their saint position or headed to the void. Zhou Xuanji curled his lip and thought to himself, the heavenly law violet chi is in my hands. Who wants to become a saint? The demon god palace was located in the wilderness and was surrounded by mountains. There were countless demons scattered everywhere, and there were all kinds of demons at a glance. From the outside, the demon god palace looked like the head of a flood dragon. It was hundreds of meters tall and towered over the mountains. Within the palace, the old beggar and northern nether sword devil Xueqi were trapped in adjacent cages. Xueqi was covered with blood and sat paralyzed on the ground, continuously panting. The old beggar, on the other hand, was lying on the ground with a relaxed posture. This palace was very spacious, and apart from the stone pillars with candles, there was nothing else. There were many totems engraved on the walls, looking like myths and legends. A ball of demonic chi appeared, and a man wearing black armor and a green robe appeared. His face was quite evil and looked like a fox. There were 2 sharp fangs in his mouth, and he wore a dragon-horned violet crown. He savagely laughed as he looked at the old beggar and said, You're still not willing to submit? Aren't you afraid that your precious disciple will be possessed by us? The old beggar scratched his bottom and harumphed as he said, So be it. He's already crazy anyway. The green-robed man laughed and said, It's not just this disciple, your other disciples are coming as well. The old beggar flipped up and frowned as he asked, What do you mean? The green-robed man evilly laughed and said, Don't you remember that you have a disciple from the demon race? The old beggar's expression fell and he gritted his teeth as he said, Very good. He almost coughed up blood. Another disciple had betrayed him. The green-robed man shrugged and smiled as he said, As long as you help us divine where the demonic emperor and heavenly law violet chi are, you and your disciple can continue to live. The old beggar's expression fell, and he fell into a dilemma. Chapter 536. Facing the threat of the demons, the old beggar finally compromised. He sat on the ground and began divining the whereabouts of the demonic emperor and heavenly law violet chi. The azure-robed man waited patiently with a scrutinizing look in his eyes. He did not know if this old thing was really going to compromise. A long while later, the old beggar said suddenly, "The demonic emperor is in the void and is very far away from Wanshan Great Thousand. However, he is moving quickly and is shortening the distance. As for the heavenly law Violet Chi, I will calculate it again." The azure-robed man squinted his eyes. This meant that the demonic emperor was already charging toward Wanshan Great Thousand. Just in time. A while later, the old beggar opened his eyes and cursed. "Damn! The heavenly law Violet Chi is actually in Divine Lord Ji's hands. Damn, why is this bastard so lucky?" "Divine Lord Ji. Is that true?" the azure-robed man asked with a deep voice. The old beggar ignored him and cursed Divine Lord Ji in all sorts of ways. Seeing this, the azure-robed man left. The old beggar did not stop cursing for a long while before lying down. He used his right hand as a pillow and thought to himself with his eyes closed, "Brat, you obtained the heavenly law Violet Chi. It's a pity that you are too young. It's almost impossible for you to become a saint." Late at night, the world was dark. Xueqi and Mo Jiuqing landed on a tree and looked at the demon god palace. "When do we act?" Xueqi asked. He could sense many powerful auras. The demon race was indeed the overlord of all worlds. Mo Jiuqing said, "Don't be anxious. Wait for the other senior apprentice brothers to come before we act." Xueqi glanced at him and felt a little strange. Since they were going to wait, why wait here? Were they not afraid of being exposed? The demon race had so many powerful cultivators. Why did they not sense their presence? Xueqi suddenly smiled and asked, "You seem to be from the demon race too, right?" Mo Jiuqing looked into the distance calmly and said, "That's right. That's why so many people do not tolerate me." Xueqi took out the 9-moon execution sword and pointed it at him. "I almost fell for your trap," he said. Mo Jiuqing turned around and asked with a frown, "What do you mean?" Xueqi replied, "To come to the demon god palace to save the old man, we don't need all of our senior brothers and junior brothers to act together. We just need to find the most powerful one. With our cultivation, we will only be holding them back." "You're not stupid. There's only one reason, and that is to wipe us all out." Mo Jiuqing smiled when he heard that, and strands of demonic energy wrapped around his body. He sneered, "Since you've already guessed it, why did you still come?" Xueqi channeled the divine moon's power, and his body glowed with a faint white light. 9 divine moons floated behind him. He smiled and said, "I just want to save that old thing." Becoming stronger at the same time, he immediately condensed a battle flame soul and charged toward Mo Jiuqing. Mo Jiuqing waved his right hand and demonic chi exploded out, turning into a massive black hand that grabbed towards Xueqi. The sword chi exploded and directly shattered the giant black hand. Bang! The sound of the explosion resounded through the sky, causing countless evil spirits to turn their heads to look at them. Xueqi and Mo Jiuqing furiously fought. He did not seem to be afraid of startling other demons, and his attacks were bold and unrestrained. 1 billion sword images appeared out of nowhere and surrounded Mo Jiuqing from all directions. As Mo Jiuqing fought with Xueqi, he also paid attention to the primordial chaos sword shadow. This kid's strength far exceeds universe heaven level 10. Mo Jiuqing frowned and charged toward the ground. 1 billion sword images followed after him. Boom! 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 The ground was bombarded by the sword images. Mountains shattered, dust billowed, and countless trees were submerged. Xueqi absorbed Mo Jiuqing's magic energy and converted it into celestial energy, which surged endlessly. "Looks like this guy is far more powerful than Universe Heaven Level 10, Xueqi thought as he raised his brow. Only a small portion of the primordial chaos sword shadow hit Mo Jiuqing, but he still absorbed a lot of magic energy. At this moment, countless demons charged toward him from all directions. They covered the sky and ground, and roars resounded. Their roars filled the entire heavens and earth. Xueqi activated the Emperor's Way 1,000-hand sword Buddha straightaway. A 1,000-hand sword Buddha that was 60,000 meters tall materialized and charged toward the demon god palace. The demon god palace trembled violently. In the cage, the old beggar opened his eyes and said in shock, "This aura? Why is that brat here? Nonsense. The northern nether sword devil Xueqi, who was beside him, was also awakened. He roared wildly and punched the ground with both fists, causing the ground to tremble. The old beggar's heart was in turmoil. He wanted to break out of the cage but could not do so. There was a special restriction in the cage that even someone as powerful as him could not break out. The old beggar gritted his teeth and clapped his palms together as he began chanting a strange incantation. The thousand-hand sword Buddha was unstoppable and came closer and closer to the demon god palace. Even with its 1,000 arms flailing wildly, countless demons crawled on its body, almost covering its golden radiance. Xueqi frowned deeply within the thousand-hand sword Buddha. He used sword chi sword to repel wave after wave of demons, but he felt that he could not kill them all. What's with these demons? Can't they be killed? He mumbled to himself. He was prepared to release demon god Tianwu at any time. The powerful beings in the demon god palace were still preparing to move out. To save the old beggar, he could no longer blame himself for hiding demon god Tianwu. Humph! You are the sword emperor Xueqi? A cold snort came, sounding as heavy as thunder. The azure-robed man appeared with dozens of powerful demons. The one with the weakest aura was at universe heaven. The azure-robed man's cultivation was the most profound and unfathomable. Xueqi scanned him with his divine sense and guessed that he was at connecting heaven. Even malicious Buddha could not compare to him. The azure-robed man raised his arms and billowing azure flames rose up behind him, forming a blazing azure sun. It had a diameter of 100,000 meters and pierced through the clouds, floating above the demon god palace. In front of this azure sun, all existences seemed incredibly small. Even Xueqi's heart thumped in fear. He could sense that this azure sun contained terrifying energy. If it exploded out, he would not even have a chance to escape. What is this fellow trying to do? Xueqi frowned and thought to himself. Going all out right from the start? Could he not be so shameless? The azure-robed man's voice once again sounded out. Remember, the one who killed you is the demon race's azure demon emperor. After speaking, countless demons flew out from the azure sun. They were like a wild storm, giving off massive sounds as they leapt at Xueqi. So it was like that. The demons here were all created by the azure demon emperor. Xueqi's eyes flashed as he flipped his right hand, and the wind god sword appeared in his left hand. His aura once again grew, and the thousand-hand sword Buddha swung its sword, slaughtering the demon army. Boom! 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 The demons continuously slammed into the thousand-hand sword Buddha. Even though they were destroyed, there were simply too many of them, and they quickly forced the thousand-hand sword Buddha into retreat. Those two swords are quite good. The azure demon emperor floated in the air and said as he thought to himself. The dozens of demons beside him started to chat. Should we act? Don't be in such a hurry, the real enemy has not come yet. This boy is not simple. He can actually block His Majesty's attack. That's because His Majesty is not serious, alright? Chapter 537. Rumble. The demon army turned into a black flood and suppressed the thousand-hand sword Buddha, causing Xueqi to leave the demon god palace. Damn it! I can't get away at all. Xueqi gritted his teeth and thought with a grave expression. He could barely maintain the stability of the thousand-hand sword Buddha. If the thousand-hand sword Buddha was destroyed, the evil spirits that were swarming in from all directions would not give him a chance to escape. Right at this moment, a beam of light tore through the turbid sky and descended upon the thousand-hand sword Buddha at an extremely fast speed. In that instant, Xueqi felt a massive wave of energy flowing into his body. This feeling was familiar. It was as if he had returned to the mystic moon state in the Abyss Pearl mainland. The powerful and overbearing power made him let out a long howl. Bang! The thousand-hand sword Buddha shattered, and Xueqi, whose body was shining with golden light, appeared. He held two swords in his hands, and legendary swords appeared out of thin air, circling around him at high speed. Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. Xueqi let go of the wind god sword and held the cultivation-absorbing demon sealer in his left hand. Facing the endless demon army, he did not retreat and instead advanced, charging forward without any fear. His sword was extremely fast, and his sword chi was vast and mighty. None of the evil spirits could withstand his sword chi. He dashed towards the demonic hall. Sword light flashed, and he became the most eye-catching existence in the world. The Azure Demonic Emperor exclaimed in bewilderment. He turned to look at the demonic deity palace and instantly guessed that it was the old beggar's doing. Even though this fellow was imprisoned, he was still able to support his disciple. He was indeed powerful. Azure Demon Emperor smirked and waved his right hand, and the massive azure flaming sun pressed down towards Xueqi. Rumble! The green flaming sun exploded with a horrifying suction force like a black hole. Xueqi quickly stopped, but he could only slow down and could not turn around. What is this thing? Xueqi's heart shuddered. Not only could the azure flaming sun create demons, but it could also absorb living creatures. Could it be that I would become a demon after being sucked in? He immediately executed the 10,000 ultimate steps in an attempt to escape. Unfortunately, it was impossible. In next to no time, he fell into the green flaming sun and vanished. The Azure Demon Emperor did not smile. Instead, he yelled, "Yangsha, since you're already here, why aren't you showing yourself? It seems like your relationship with your junior brother isn't good." Rumble! The black clouds parted, and a dazzling light shone down. A domineering godlike figure descended with a magnificent aura. His countenance was calm and his eyes shone with a divine light. He was clad in golden armor and looked majestic. He stared at the Azure Demon Emperor and spoke, "Azure Demon Emperor, do you know what the price for daring to capture my master is?" The Azure Devil Emperor laughed with disdain. "The price is that you'll be accompanying your master." His entire body ignited with green flames, and he turned into a sharp arrow that shot forward. Within the azure flaming sun, Xueqi levitated in the air with his legendary sword circling around him. All he could see were azure flames, and the light was dim. Xueqi swung his sword and looked around. He wanted to break out, but he found that it was impossible. He didn't panic and started absorbing the green flames to strengthen his battle path flame soul. Very soon, many demons attacked from all directions. Each of them looked ferocious and terrifying. Even the weakest among them was a void extreme immortal. Xueqi allowed the battle flame soul to absorb the azure flames while he slashed with the cultivation-absorbing demonic sealer to slay evil. Since he couldn't escape, he would become stronger here. He frantically exorcised demons. 10,000. 100,000. 1,000,000. 10,000,000. He realized that something was off. He couldn't kill all of these demons, but the cultivation-absorbing demonic sealer sword chi had become much stronger. He finally understood why this place was so terrifying. It was because he couldn't kill all of these demons. If it was any other creature, they would have died sooner or later. However, he had world internalization and the cultivation-absorbing demonic sealer, which made him stronger and stronger. As his cultivation grew stronger, so did the battle path flame soul. To him, this place was the best place for cultivation. Don't celebrate too early. The further you go, the more powerful the demons will be. Eventually, there will be demons even more powerful than the Azure Devil Emperor, Sovereign Xian said in Xueqi's mind. Sovereign Xian said in Xueqi's mind. He seemed to understand Azure Demon Emperor very well, causing Emperor Zhao to ask about Azure Demon Emperor's background. The Azure Devil Emperor had lived for countless years and was considered an ancient existence. In the demon realm, the Azure Devil Emperor's strength was ranked in the top 10. The demonic ancestor was undoubtedly the strongest. Is there a way to break out of this? Xueqi asked. He could also sense that the demons were becoming stronger. The rate at which the demons were becoming stronger was much faster than the rate at which his cultivation was growing. Either you keep running and wait for someone to break in from the outside, or you use absolute power to break in from the inside, Sovereign Xian replied. His words made Xueqi frown. It seemed like he really had to use demon god Tianwu. Boom! A horrifying explosion came, and Xueqi's ears were ringing. He looked up and saw that the darkness was broken through, and a violent gale came in from the outside. He was overjoyed and immediately dashed out. At the same time, Yangsha and the Azure Devil Emperor were fighting on the surface of the sun. Yangsha held a spear with red tassels and a halberd. He defended against the Azure Devil Emperor while attacking the sun. Seeing a large hole in the sun, the Azure Devil Emperor was enraged. His hands turned into claws and clawed at Yangsha. Yangsha displayed the domineering aura of an undefeatable war god. No matter how powerful the demonic might was, the the spear and halberd could destroy it. Zhou Xuanji leaped up from behind him and saw the battle between Yang Sha and the Azure Devil Emperor. Yang Sha is your senior apprentice brother, Sovereign Xian said in surprise. Before Zhou Xuanji could ask, Emperor Zhao asked who Yang Sha was. Sovereign Xian did not hide anything and began introducing Yang Sha. He was the first human in the 10,000 worlds, and he was the first war god in human history. He had saved the human race from danger many times. A long time ago, when the human race was just born, they were food for the other races. Yang Sha was one of the heroes. After the human race became more powerful, Yang Sha and the other human primogenitors retired. Zhou Xuanji had never thought that such an expert would be the old beggar's disciple. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji felt quite shocked. Just who was the old beggar? Zhou Xuanji did not think too much and rushed towards the demon god palace. After the sun was destroyed, the suction force was no longer there. Seeing Zhou Xuanji rush over, the dozens of powerful demons guarding the demon god palace all attacked. Zhou Xuanji leaped up and directly used world suppressing. With the cultivation-absorbing demon sealer, immortal energy surged into the sword and pressed down. He was like a meteor as he smashed towards the demon god palace. Terrifying demonic chi formed a massive black barrier, covering the demon god palace. Boom! The massive black barrier shattered, and Zhou Xuanji's sword slashed out, instantly killing 20 or so demons. The other demons hurriedly dodged in fear. Zhou Xuanji also smashed through the demon god palace, pursuing the old beggar's aura. He advanced unobstructed, and soon, he came to the palace where the old beggar was. He landed in front of the cage like a cannonball. The old beggar cried out in delight. "Boy, you've killed your way in so quickly." Zhou Xuanji did not say anything and used his sword to hack at the cage. It was a pity that no matter how he hacked, he could not break the metal bars. "This cage requires connecting heaven level 5 power or above to break," the old beggar said as he sighed. The old beggar sighed. Just as he spoke, Zhou Xuanji released Demon God Tianwu. Demon God Tianwu shrunk to 2 meters tall and walked to the cage. It directly broke the metal bars, making the old beggar dumbfounded. Chapter 538. Demon God Tianwu walked to Su Qing's cage and tore it apart as well. Su Qing rushed out as well. The moment he saw Demon God Tianwu, he roared and pounced towards it. The heavenly Wu demon god instinctively waved his fist and sent him flying. He smashed through the walls of the demon god palace and crashed into a mountain. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Zhou Xuanji hurriedly put Demon God Tianwu into the Tianxia map. Demon God Tianwu. The old beggar screamed in disbelief. "Run quickly," Zhou Xuanji urged. After saying that, he took the lead and jumped up, followed by the old beggar. After the two of them flew out of the demonic hall, the old beggar flew towards Su Qing. Su Qing had already gone crazy. He charged into the army of demons, his aura becoming more and more violent. The old beggar rushed in front of him and was directly lifted by his right leg, swung up and smashed on the ground. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. He hurried over and saved Su Qing. Su Qing's cultivation was at Universe Heaven level 18, and with the old beggar's power, Zhou Xuanji could barely push him back. "He's already crazy, and you still want to care about him? Why don't I see you treating your other disciples like this? Is he your son?" Zhou Xuanji said unpleasantly. The situation was urgent. Yang Sha could only stop Azure Demon Emperor and could not win in a short period of time. If the demonic ancestor came, it would be over. The old beggar gritted his teeth and said, "He saved my life." Zhou Xuanji took out the soft velvety sword and wanted to make Su Qing powerless, but Su Qing slapped the soft velvety sword away. The old beggar took out a silver tower and quickly sucked Su Qing into it. Linglong Treasure Pagoda? Zhou Xuanji looked at the silver tower in his hand curiously. "Let's split up. It's too dangerous to follow me." After saying this, the old beggar flew away quickly. Zhou Xuanji was stunned and almost cursed out loud. Ingrate. He turned and flew in another direction. He did not chase after Mo Jiuqing. Since the old beggar had been saved, he should leave. He was not strong enough to help Yang Sha, so he might as well leave early so that Yang Sha could escape. Along the way, he encountered many evil devils. Relying on the cultivation-absorbing devil sealing art, He slaughtered his way out. After flying for 10,000 miles, there were no more evil spirits chasing after him. Whoosh, an air-piercing sound came, and Zhou Xuanji instinctively dodged. A black beam of light pierced through his chest and almost hit his heart. This black light beam was only 3 fingers in diameter, yet it was able to penetrate his flesh. It was truly frightening. He turned around and saw a white-haired woman hovering above the black clouds. Her skin was the color of blood, and she wore a loose red robe. Even though her face was exquisite, her entire person seemed to have walked out of a pool of blood, and it was eerie and frightening. She looked at Zhou Xuanji coldly and raised her right hand again. Unstoppable! Zhou Xuanji immediately fled at full speed. Xiao! Another streak of black light pierced through his right shoulder, causing his face to twitch in pain. This black light contained an extreme corrosive power that prevented his body from healing quickly. It even hurt his soul. The cruelty demon emperor of the demon world. It said that she's the closest existence to the demon ancestor. She's even stronger than the Azure Demon Emperor. Sovereign Xian introduced to Zhou Xuanji. The Sky Sovereign Demon Emperor cussed. It's that old fiend. She's the one who killed me. Zhou Xuanji could not help him take revenge, so he could only hide in fear. Xiao! Xiao! Another 2 streaks of black light shot over. They were too fast, and Zhou Xuanji's legs were hit. Blood flew everywhere, and he was unable to dodge at all. He did not turn and attack the Cruelty Demon Emperor, because she was simply too powerful. She's toying with me. Zhou Xuanji was infuriated. He had already made preparations to be reborn. At that moment, a powerful gust of wind descended from behind him. He instinctively slashed out with his sword. Bang! The Cruelty Demon Emperor stomped down on his back, breaking his spine. The terrifying power almost caused him to faint. Following this, he fell into the forest, kicking up a trail of dust. The Cruelty Demon Emperor floated in the air and condescendingly laughed as she said, "You dare to fight with the demon race with just this bit of strength?" She opened her mouth and spat out a yellow-brown river, which poured into the forest. The trees that were touched by the river were instantly burned to ashes. In less than 3 breaths of time, the surrounding 10,000 meters of forest had been scorched. As for Zhou Xuanji, there was no trace of him. The Cruelty Demon Emperor smiled and turned to fly towards the Demon God Palace. Sunlight shined down. Zhou Xuanji felt quite warm. He opened his eyes, and what he saw was the mottled reflection of tree leaves. His eyes widened, and he found that he was hanging from a tree. His body was wrapped in silk, and only his head could be seen, making him look like a silkworm cocoon. "What's going on?" Zhou Xuanji frowned as he muttered. At that moment, a figure walked over. It was the old immortal who had taken him in for 3 years and allowed him to wait for the heavenly saint to appear. He could not help but ask, "Why am I here?" The old immortal had a faint smile on his face as he said, "You almost died to the Cruelty Demon Emperor's poison. It was me who used a great divine ability to teleport you here from far away." Zhou Xuanji thought back to what had happened before he had fainted and hurriedly asked the sword spirit where his swords were. The sword spirit replied. The instant he had teleported, the sword spirit had taken back all of his swords. He could not help but let out a sigh of relief. He said gratefully, "Many thanks, Senior." The old immortal shook his head and said, "Come to think of it, you are my junior." He walked over to the tree and sat down, leaning against the trunk. He looked towards the horizon, and his gaze became gentle. He sighed and said, "Back then I came here with your revered teacher. Back then, there was no heavenly law or 9 saints. Back then, I was in a hurry to leave, but your revered teacher refused. He said that he wanted to help the creatures here gain intelligence, so we had a conflict and went our separate ways. I escaped into the void and wanted to find my way home, but I did not succeed." Zhou Xuanji's eyes widened. What did that mean? The old immortal and the old beggar did not belong to the Wanshan Great Thousand? "I have been here for hundreds of millions of years, but I have always failed. After going around in circles, I have returned here. The world has changed, and the heavenly law has been established. 5 of the 9 saints have appeared. Your revered teacher interfered with the rules of the heavenly law and was suppressed by the heavenly law. It was I who saved him, but I also injured myself. From then on, We hid in the great thousand worlds and recuperated, waiting for hope on the way home. Now, there are more and more great thousand worlds, and there are countless creatures of different races. However, I have lost all hope, but your revered teacher has not. He has always been taking in disciples, hoping to nurture an existence that surpasses the heavenly law and can take us home. A look of melancholy appeared on the old immortal's face. Those memories were already hazy in his mind. Even the most powerful cultivation could not withstand the mercilessness of time. Where did your home come from? Xueqi asked. The old immortal glanced at him and said with a smile, "At the end of the void. I'm not sure how far it is, but that place is called the Kunlun Origin Court." Kunlun Origin Court. Xueqi's eyes lit up, and he was attracted by the word Kunlun. Kunlun often appeared in Chinese mythology, and it represented the land of immortals. He asked, "What does the Kunlun Origin Court look like? Is it the same as the Great Thousand Worlds?" The old immortal sighed and said, "It's different, completely different. I cannot reveal too much, or else the heavenly law will be wary of me." Chapter 539. You saved me because you think that I can surpass the heavenly law and bring you back to the Kunlun Origin Court? Xueqi asked with squinted eyes. He was also very interested in the Kunlun Origin Court. The sword spirit said that the supreme legendary sword system came from the serendipity of the world. Where was Hong Meng? The old immortal smiled at him but did not reply. He got up slowly and stretched his waist. Looking toward the horizon, he said, "I suddenly feel old." He shook his head with a smile and walked toward the Taoist temple. "When your injuries are healed, you will come down. Don't worry and don't be anxious." Xueqi heard this and felt at peace. After a while, the old immortal's voice came from the Taoist temple. "Spring and summer, the sky is high and the earth is small. Where the Tao is, the heart longs for. Everything has its rules, and more haste makes waste. If the Tao belongs to you, no one can steal it. If the Tao does not belong to you, it is useless to prove the Tao with strength." Xueqi thought to himself. Was the old immortal trying to tell him not to be anxious? He was only 200 years old and had already reached Universe Heaven Level 10. Such a breakthrough speed was something that everyone could only look up to. But he still desired more power and continued to take risks. What will happen if I slow down? Xueqi thought to himself. In the past, he always felt that he was in such a hurry because he wanted to protect the people around him. But thinking back, his enemies had never captured the people around him to threaten him. If he did not step forward, would everything that he protected disappear? A refreshing breeze came out, gently caressing his cheeks. His black hair danced in the wind. Listening to the sound of the wind, his heart sank into an unprecedented tranquility. The old immortal was still speaking. His voice was not as majestic as Sage Daojing's, but it had the same magical power to calm his heart. Sunlight shone down, and the flowers and grasses all over the mountain glowed faintly. It was a sign of life and hope. Among the flowers and grasses, a group of ants moved forward. The ant at the front was carrying the largest piece of leaf. It was the fastest and was getting further and further away from the rest of the ants. A strange bug leaped out suddenly and swallowed it before disappearing among the grasses. The ants continued to move forward, and the strange bug dashed out again to hunt the ants. Soon, it was surrounded by the ants and was finally bitten to death by a dozen of them. 3 days later, Xueqi's injuries recovered, and the silk dissipated as he landed on the ground. He hurriedly took out a set of white clothes and put them on. He stretched his muscles and walked to the front of the Taoist temple. He bowed and cupped his hands, asking, "Senior, do you have any instructions for this junior?" He had a hunch that the old immortal didn't just save him. As for the old beggar's safety, he was no longer worried. He chose to believe in his fellow apprentices. For the past 3 days, he had been enjoying the breeze and enjoying nature, which made him think of many things. The world was vast, and not everything needed him. "How about helping me plant flowers and plants?" The old immortal's voice sounded out, and Xueqi nodded and turned to leave. Just like that, he lived in the Taoist temple. During the day, he admired the flowers and grass, and at night, he sat on a tree trunk and looked up at the stars. Time flew by. Half a year passed quickly. He was near the Taoist temple, isolated from the rest of the world, so he did not know what was going on in the world. He wanted to go back to the divine cliff to take a look, so he asked the old immortal. The old immortal did not stop him and only asked him to come back quickly. Xueqi quickly left and flew toward the divine cliff at full speed. Along the way, he did not stop, nor did he inquire about any news. It was as if the demon race had nothing to do with him, or the affairs of the world had nothing to do with him. After returning to the divine cliff, everything was fine. The divine cliff's disciples were on standby, while Zhou Shaoxian was still cultivating in the forest. He returned to his residence and found Jiang Shui. She sat in the courtyard and internalized qi. Sunlight shone on her body, and she seemed to be covered in a layer of radiance. "Hey!" Zhou Xuanji walked up to her silently and suddenly threatened her. Jiang Shui was not frightened and pinched his face instead. "Humph, I sensed you the moment you appeared," Jiang Shui said with a cold snort. She opened her eyes and looked at him, asking, "How's the situation?" Zhou Xuanji did not hide anything from her and told her everything in detail. After hearing it, she heaved a sigh of relief and said, "That old immortal was right. You were too impatient. However, because of your impatience, we are here today," Jiang Shui said with an adoring smile. In her eyes, Zhou Xuanji was omnipotent and the most powerful and best man in the world. Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, "Do you want to stay here or come with me?" Jiang Shui thought for a moment and said, "Forget it. That old immortal left you here, so he definitely wants to nurture you. I don't want to ruin that. Moreover, only with me here can the divine cliff be at ease. If you and I both leave, the others will leave as well. When that time comes, what will the divine cliff do?" The divine cliff had saved Zhou Xuanji's life. If it wasn't for Zhou Xuanji, the divine cliff would still be an overlord-level faction in the Center God province. As such, she had to stay. Zhou Xuanji nodded. It would be dangerous for Jiang Shui to come with him. Who knew when the demonic emperor would return? The two of them stayed together for a day before he silently left. He did not alert anyone else, and he left as quickly as he came. After returning to the Taoist temple, Zhou Xuanji did not disturb the old immortal. He sat under a tree and silently looked at the flowers and plants. After staying here for half a year, he suddenly liked to stare blankly. Looking at the beautiful scenery, he thought about the past and the future, making him feel carefree and relaxed. The old immortal suddenly walked out of the Taoist temple and sat down beside Zhou Xuanji, looking at the mountains in front of them. "What are you feeling right now?" The old immortal asked softly, his tone gentle. Zhou Xuanji did not look at him and looked into the distance as he said, "It's very peaceful, as if I'm very small and the world is very big. There's no danger, no excitement. It's like the water in a lake, peaceful and peaceful." The old immortal smiled and said, "You asked me what the Kunlun origin court was like before, and that was actually your current mental state." Zhou Xuanji looked at him and asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" The old immortal shook his head and smiled as he said, "Only those with an absolutely peaceful heart can enter the Kunlun origin court. Many creatures head to the void in search of a vaster world, including the heavenly saints. However, they all failed, not because their cultivation was not high enough, but because their hearts were not peaceful enough. As such, they could not receive the summons of the Kunlun origin court. I told you to calm your heart early for the Kunlun origin court. When you go to the Kunlun origin court, you will transform, and you will even rise above the heavens." Zhou Xuanji asked in confusion, "Since it's like this, you should all be very powerful. Why are you trapped here?" The old immortal replied, "All the suffering in the world comes from fighting. The Kunlun origin court also has fighting, and we lost, which is why we are here." Mentioning this, he did not feel angry or unwilling. He was very calm. Perhaps this was what he meant by calming his heart. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself. The old immortal said deeply, "It's not impossible to become an overlord saint. I will help you reach it." Chapter 540. Overlord Saint. Zhou Xuanji's eyes lit up and asked, "How do I become an overlord saint?" Proving one's Tao with strength sounded easy, but it was incredibly difficult to surpass a heavenly sage with magic energy. The higher one's cultivation base was, the slower one's breakthrough speed would be. The old immortal said leisurely, "Don't you already have a demon god's clone? As long as you reach the strength of his body, I have a way to help you become an overlord saint. You will be invincible under the heavenly law, and even the heavenly law will not be able to reject or punish you." Xueqi blinked, and the joy in his heart receded like the tide. How powerful was the demon god Tianwu? Once he reached that height, it would be another round of vicissitudes. He asked, "Is there a body tempering method?" His cultivation was mainly focused on immortal energy, and his fleshly body was not his main focus. With his current cultivation level, it was very difficult to find heavenly materials and earthly treasures that could help him temper his body. It was possible to obtain the heavenly Tao providence, but it was more difficult to obtain than to find treasures. "Once you've calmed down, I'll help you." The old immortal chuckled. Then, he got up and walked down the mountain. "Where are you going?" Xueqi asked. As the sun shone on the old immortal, he looked like he could ascend to heaven and become an immortal at any moment. "Let's go take a look at the little creatures at the foot of the mountain and experience their world," the old immortal said without turning his head. These words made Xueqi fall into deep thought. Was the world of rats, rabbits, ants, and insects peaceful? He looked at the flowers and plants by his hand. As the Devil clan invaded the Center God province, the atmosphere in the Center God province became tense. The first-class forces sent their disciples to the border to resist the Devil clan's army, and the Divine Palace also joined in. The news that the distant ancestor of the human race, Yang Sha, had wreaked havoc in the Emotion Temple had spread throughout the Center God province. It was said that Yang Sha had battled the Azure Demon Emperor and the Ruined Demon Emperor on his own, and both of them were severely injured. At the same time, the news of the demon realm descending upon the vast thousand worlds also spread. Although the demon realm was far from the Center God province, it could still threaten the vast thousand domains. A calamity that engulfed the entire vast thousand worlds descended. Times create heroes. The war had just begun, but many geniuses had already emerged from the human race. Emperor Jundao was one of them. He fought his way to the front lines and fought against the demons. His strength increased by leaps and bounds. The Divine Cliff was located within the Center God province and did not participate in the battle. Yang Yutian did not even dare to think about becoming a sky saint. 3 years later, an expert from beyond the heavens descended. His name was Duyushan, and he descended upon the battlefield of the humans and demons, slaughtering the soldiers of both sides. He was extremely powerful. That battle had forced Azure Demon Emperor and Giant God Huang Hao to rush over as reinforcements, but Duyushan had easily escaped. 7 years later, the various ancient families of the Center God province came into being, and at the same time, they joined forces with the surrounding provinces to resist the Devil race. During these 10 years, Xueqi stayed in front of the old immortal's temple to calm his mind. He was already 260 years old, and the number of divine swords he had reached 572. In these 10 years, he did not obtain a divine sword that surpassed the Armageddon grade or an extremely powerful divine ability. His cultivation had also stagnated, but he was not disappointed by this. In the meantime, he returned to the Divine Cliff and kept Emperor Sword Court into the world of the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus. As for Jiang Shui, Zhou Shaoxian, Fenyu Dragon King, Lin Changge, and the others, they were still at the Divine Cliff to help him. Xueqi built a portal in the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus, which led to his residence in the Divine Cliff. If they encountered danger, they could escape into the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus through the portal. If the enemy dared to follow him, he could use the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus to kill them. At this moment, Xueqi was lying on the grass and looking up at the sky. It felt great not to cultivate, and he was slacking off in the name of cultivating his mind. The world had nothing to do with him. After 10 years, he could clearly sense the change in his mentality. He was no longer worried about the world or the Divine Cliff. He did not need to worry about his enemies coming to find trouble with him. "You sure have nothing to do." A cold laughter came. The voice was filled with murderous intent. Xueqi got up slowly and asked calmly, "Demonic Emperor?" With the old immortal in the temple, he did not fear the demonic emperor at all. A ball of black chi appeared in front of him and formed into a human figure. He wore a luxurious black armor, and the breastplate looked like a lion's head. His face was cold, and half of his face was covered in flaming scales. 2 dragon horns protruded from his long hair, and they pierced towards the sky. The demonic emperor. His aura was evil, more evil than anyone Xueqi had ever met. Once he landed, the flowers and grass around him withered visibly. Even the trees behind Xueqi were aging rapidly. The most horrifying thing was that Xueqi could sense that his life force was being sucked away. He quickly channeled his celestial energy to resist this evil energy. Xueqi, you're quite carefree. Since you know who I am, then join me. I will help you quickly become stronger, and when I become a saint, you will become the person with the greatest authority under me. What do you think? The demonic emperor said coldly. His dark green eyes glowed with a strange light. He was shocked in his heart that Xueqi could face him so calmly. If it were any other person from the northern wilderness, they might not even be able to stand and withstand the pressure from the depths of their soul. Xueqi shook his head and said, "Not much. Please go back." The demonic emperor's face darkened. He grabbed toward Xueqi. Demon god Tianwu appeared suddenly and punched toward him. The fist and palm collided. With a loud boom, the demonic emperor was sent flying backward. Although he had the body of a demon god, he could not control it completely. Moreover, he did not use his full power, so he could not withstand demon god Tianwu's horrifying power. Looking at the demon god's back, Xueqi smiled. He waved his right hand, and the withered plants around him quickly regained their vitality. At this moment, the demonic emperor appeared above Xueqi's head and clawed at him. Demon god Tianwu fought instinctively. Once the demonic emperor appeared, he turned around and kicked the demonic emperor, sending him flying into the sky. Xueqi lay down and looked at the demonic emperor leisurely. The demonic emperor stopped in midair and muttered with a deep frown, "Demon god's body. Tianwu." Waves of shock surged in his heart. How did Xueqi obtain demon god Tianwu? And with this brat's cultivation, how could he refine demon god Tianwu's corpse into a clone? It was completely illogical. He flipped his right hand and took out a black saber that was surrounded by blood qi. He was prepared to attack again. "Benefactor, I advise you to leave this place, or else I will kill you." The old immortal's voice came from the temple. The demonic emperor heard him and his expression changed drastically. He looked back at the temple with fear in his eyes. "May I ask who you are?" he asked with a deep voice. "Is it important?" The old immortal replied. The demonic emperor's expression changed. Finally, he turned into a ball of black qi and dissipated. "You can protect him now, but you can't protect him forever. Once he leaves you, it will be the day of his death." The demonic emperor's chilling voice resounded across the clouds for a long time. Xueqi did not mind. He had heard such threats many times. By the time he left, he would have transformed. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.